Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Bob and the Bill. We got our boy Chris Richard on today.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
We got to do the obligatory cheers.
Okay, absolutely.
What does obligatory mean?
Means obligated to do it.
Yeah, I think that's what it means.
Oh, I didn't feel obligated then.
Well, I genuinely wanted to cheers him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to change the name.
That was a consensual cheers.
All right, so before we get started, we just want to mention that if you guys have any questions, suggestions, or unpopular opinions yourselves, send them to bottomofthebill@gmail.com. We want to promote some shows coming up. We're playing at Jackrabbits on February 5th for the 22nd year anniversary of Jackrabbits with Alchematic and Mr. Cool.
Mr. Cool, what a great name.
22 years of Jackrabbits, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I know.
man.
It's
I'm pretty stoked to be playing it, honestly. It's going to be with such a great lineup. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
You can get your tickets on our website at sidehustletheband.com or at Jack's Live, I think, is doing it on their website also. We've got no Hangout Express shows to promote or solo shows to promote. You got any shows coming up? No. Chris, you got any shows coming up?
No, not at the moment. I don't.
All right. So, well, let's get into it. How'd you get started playing music? Give us some background.
Oh, man. So I grew up playing music in school. Middle school, I wanted to learn how to play the trumpet. And that was such a terrible idea. So the trumpet didn't work out. And then when it came around to the next school year, I was like, let's go for this drum thing. So, my parents were very reluctant to buy a drum set for me just because of the sheer noise that it was going to create.
Sure,
I think that was really the biggest issue. But they finally kind of caved. I got into middle school band, started playing a little bit more drums, and then honestly, church was huge. I played in a youth group and stuff like that, and a local musician. He's been in a ton of bands. A guy named Patrick Bass was a killer drummer that was there, and he was a little bit younger than me. He went on to play in Our Finest Hour. I think he was like 10 years younger than everybody else in that band at the time. It was kind of insane. Maybe not quite that old, that much younger, but he kind of showed me a lot of the way of just kind of finding groove. And then throughout high school, started playing in a lot of bands, went into marching band, played on the bass line, and then in sophomore year moved to center snare section leader. And it just kind of grew from there, man. Started playing in metal and hardcore bands in high school just because that's what I was into. Lots of shows at Jackrabbits and the Imperial and the Pit, all the pits.
That place was awful.
Man. So
they had a cage, man.
They did. They
never went there.
Chain link fence.
Oh, sorry. It was a chain link fence. It wasn't even a cage.
Well, it was initially a cage. Then
Like,
they cut a section of it
I
off
remember that.
and made it into like a fence.
Yeah.
It was very strange.
It was almost like a Duncan booth. Like the Blues Brothers when they're throwing up. You could hit the drummer if you try real hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's really what it was. And I picked up guitar a little way through the process just because I wanted to be more involved in like the writing process of music. So I can work my way around the guitar and play a little bit. So that let me put in a little more creativity to the music than just playing drums, which was a cool thing. And it just really blossomed from there, man. It was a passion for the groove, man. I just love funky, groovy. That's the pocket. That's where I want to be all the time.
You gotta explain
what
to
is
Bill
the
what the
pocket?
pocket is. He does.
Okay,
He
you
legitimately doesn't
don't
know what it means.
understand what the pocket.
He's a keyboard.
All right,
player
listen.
No. And I just think that everyone has their own definition for it. See,
All right,
he's doing the head movement like
when
Matt
you start
did.
grooving like this.
This
when you
might
start-
be the most
When
popular.
you start grooving like this,
Yeah.
and then when you hit that spot right in the back before you're going to start to come forward. All right?
Okay.
That's that snare. That's the pocket.
Okay.
All right? That's the pocket. You're constantly working your way in and out. The pocket's right here. Oh, there's the pocket.
Yeah.
It's
That's the way to describe it.
You got to be there, man. and it's a great place to be.
I imagine so.
Billy
Never actually been there before, but
we
I
know.
want to make a TV series where I just go around and asking every musician what the pocket is, because every single person has a different definition of it.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
I think so too.
100%.
I know what
yeah.
the pocket is.
Yeah, but you don't know what the pocket
No,
is.
I've never been there.
Yeah.
I want
He does.
someone.
I just explained to him what the pocket was.
Part 3 of the limited series is me getting into the pocket.
Oh, I would love for that day to happen.
Yeah.
Holy shit! That
And I
would make my
finally
life
get
so
it,
much
and
easier.
then it's me doing every single thing that everyone said. I'm like bobbing my head, and then also just like yeah, I'm
and
doing
then like
this.
playing in time. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
and also
that'd be
playing in
amazing.
time,
Oh,
but
God, I love it.
but better in time. You're in the pocket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
exactly like you're really in the pocket. Yeah, so the pocket's like one of those things where it's like you don't really know how to describe it, but you know it when you hear it.
Oh,
or
yeah.
you know it when you
Oh,
feel
yeah.
it. It's like, man, that's a fuck. He's in the pocket, bro. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, man. That's how I've always focused as far as like being a drummer. I wanted to never be the flashiest, like best drummer, because that was never my focus, man. But being a solid, rhythmically steady pocket drummer, that was just always what got to me. I mean,
So Corey Wong, a guitar player from Wolfpack, for anyone who's not familiar, one of the guitar players. You listen to Wolfpack at all?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're familiar with their sound, all that super like pocket guitar playing.
Oh, yeah.
That's like all Corey Wong, just like his. I mean, obviously the rhythm section's amazing too, but Corey Wong's got this very unique rhythm to his playing, and he talks about he was in drumline also when he was like younger, and so he talks about his awareness of what part of the beat, because like when you're playing with a bunch of snares, it's like if you're not all on the same page, it just becomes like one big flam kind of effect.
Yeah, 100%.
So he thinks about like target practice. It's like you're emphasizing like different parts of the beat. You're figuring out, like, you're really paying attention to every little subdivision because you're practicing target practice basically.
Pretty incredible.
This has enough material for a 6-part limited series. I'm
So-
just letting you know.
So
Waiting
do
for that Netflix deal.
So do you feel like the drum line helped you with like pay attention in that kind of regard?
Man, absolutely. I find it funny to like get later in life and see how many of, especially the drummers that I was inspired by, that grew up playing on drum lines, and actually played in drum corps. Man, there's nothing that will ingrain a metronome into your head like walking through a parking lot in 100-degree Florida weather in the summer, with a metronome being blared through a speakerphone.
Oh my God.
As loud as possible while you count in your head 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. I mean, it literally. I feel like I cannot walk out of time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I catch myself all the time walking behind someone, and my feet aren't in time with theirs, and I'll actually
You'll
shuffle
adjust.
to get my left and right back. You know what I'm saying?
So
It's
funny.
such a weird thing that I don't even realize, but I catch myself doing it all the time, and I definitely think that drumline's all about being exactly on the beat, and every instrument has its particular spot in that measure, and whether that's to rest or whether that's to play a 1/4/8 or whatever it may be. Drumline is very much about everybody being on the same page at the same time, and that definitely ingrained a lot into me in the way that I kind of write music. Especially with S.P.O.R.E and some of the later projects I got into, which were more like improv. They still had a very structured skeleton to them. There was still like this intro, verse, chorus, second verse, outro, bridge section, outro, and that was it. They were very structured because that was the way that I was ingrained to play music. And then kind of taking it to a different aspect with the improv kind of adds a cool aspect to it that changes things up every single time.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, man, it's drumline played a huge role in the way that I play and write music. Huge role.
Did you come from a musical family at all?
All right, so my dad does not play guitar. My stepdad rips guitar.
Really?
Okay, rips, man. Okay. And his brother rips guitar even harder. It's unreal. They're both like Allman Brothers, Clapton heads, and they just sit around and just finger pick and noodle around and play stuff that I just aspire to maybe one day think could be possible for my fingers to do.
Yeah.
But and they're incredible, but really most of like my musical aspect came from musical influence came from friends outside of my family. Like I had a lot of friends grew up skateboarding. A lot of them happened to play guitar, and everybody was always looking for a drummer. That seemed to always be the thing when you were younger. Like there was 1,000 guitar players for every one drummer.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured, hey, let's pick up an instrument that could be useful somewhere. And that allowed me to just kind of expand from there. But no one in my family really, I guess my grandfather was a killer guitar player, very much traditional finger picking style, acoustic guitar, classical guitar, but killer guitar player. But he lived in Indiana, so I didn't really get much influence from him musically.
Right.
So it was a lot of just the people that I hung out with, and I got into punk rock when I was a 6th grader, and I guess it was all downhill from there, and the famous New Found Glory album words.
Bro,
I remember all of the I don't even know if you want to call it punk. It's emo.
Yeah,
it was
like
emo.
pop
It's
punk.
pop punk,
Yeah,
pop
it was
punk.
pre-emo.
It's pre-emo, yeah.
Bubblegum punk.
It wasn't Dashboard Confessionals, but there's another word for it.
No.
Yeah, definitely.
Pop
But
punk.
Pop punk.
I
yeah.
just
That's what
remember
it's
that
called.
coming out as, and I'm not sure how old you are, but that was like 6th grade. Yeah, when I like figured out all that stuff. Like when that's when Good Charlotte came out, and I was like, I don't like this.
I loved Good Charlotte, man.
I was into it.
I wasn't so much into New Found Glory or like Blink 182.
Oh.
But for some reason, I really liked Good Charlotte. I don't know why. I just did.
I thoroughly enjoy Good Charlotte. Blink 182, hands down, most influential band for me as far as like my drumming, and that probably has so much more to do with Travis Barker than it does somewhat the band as a whole. But at the same time, that's one group that I could put on every single album in the discography and not skip a single song and enjoy it the whole way through, have a good time listening to it, no matter what kind of mood or day it is. I could throw on some Blink-182, and it kind of just makes things a little bit easier,
I can't not like know every single word to a Blink-182 song. It just
it's
happened.
not possible.
That's how. No, I'm just saying. Like, when I was like, came out. I guess like when I was like 10 or 11 years old, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
and so it's just like stuck in there forever. I'm actually doing a like cocktail lounge version of What's My Age Again.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
it sounds pretty good on piano and everything
Nice.
like that. But yeah, I just couldn't get in. I couldn't get into that music. I was listening to like I was like the only 6th grader in Kentucky listening to fucking DJ Tiesto and Paul Oakenfold.
Ugh.
Okay, I got you. Yeah,
the worst.
the electronic stuff didn't come in at that point for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think a lot of it was heavily influenced yet again by like, I lived in Jacksonville, and there was everybody I hung out with was a bunch of skater kids. You know, I mean that was I skateboarded every day.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of the influence. Everybody was a lot older than me too. So, half the kids that I skated with were these kids skating for Flatline and at Kona every single weekend. They were 8th graders. I was in 6th grade, but I could ollie and I could do a kickflip.
Yeah,
So
there you
I
go.
was pretty cool, I mean, and it was just one of those things where they definitely influenced. In fact, that was where I first got a Blink-182 CD that my mother quickly took away. Was from an older guy that I skated with, and I remember skipping gym class with a CD Walkman in my pants, headphones run up my hoodie, not dressed out, sitting over there going, yeah, what's my age again? And that was it for me. That was kind of the drumming aspect of it. Obviously, Travis Barker, incredible drummer who also marched drum corps and marching line. So
but also the flashiest drummer of all time.
Unreal flashy. But
he gets that pocket.
He's got a lot of pocket, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's a very traditionally trained drummer that was able to make a career for himself. I mean, pull Blink-182 aside, Travis Barker can go play drums with anybody he wants to.
Yeah.
And that's pretty outstanding for a drummer.
And he's unbreakable too. Didn't he get in like a plane crash?
He did.
And
Yeah.
everybody
Get
else
in a plane
died
crash.
but him.
DJ
everybody but
AM.
him and one other guy.
He's unbreakable.
Yeah,
it's pretty nuts, man.
Bruce Willis.
He also does like a lot of hip hop producing, which is super cool.
A ton of it, yeah.
So outside of like Blink-182 and Travis Barker, who were some of your other earlier influences as a drummer?
So my dad did, even though he wasn't, musically talented whatsoever, he listened to a ton of music. So what I grew up listening to was at least my early memories of like really understanding and liking the music my dad was listening to was probably like 10,000 Maniacs, Alanis Morissette, Natalie Imbruglia.
That was my first tape, was Alanis Morissette when I was like 8 years old.
Really.
And then Shania Twain too.
Oh, there you go.
Raised by a woman.
And my mom was into country, so you know there was definitely some George Strait in there, and some Tim McGraw. But my dad was really into. I can remember like almost wearing out a copy of like Bare Naked Ladies when they wrote "If I Had $1 Million," and they did like a live bonus edit of the song at like the end of the album, and man, I wore that crap out. Dave Matthews was another one.
Love Dave Matthews. Carter Beauford's like one of the most ridiculous drummers out there.
Insane. And the only guy that I'm gonna clear wearing gloves while he plays drums.
Yeah.
Okay. Only guy I'm gonna clear wearing gloves.
Also has
saying it.
I don't understand what. What are you talking about?
He wears gloves while he plays.
He wears gloves while he plays drums. Carter Beauford for Dave Matthews. And I'm saying he's the only guy I'm going to clear to wear gloves.
No.
I don't understand the glove thing, but when Carter Beauford does it, totally fine.
O.J. Simpson leather gloves or like latex gloves? What's the deal?
Like they're like a golfing glove almost.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like a thin glove that'll prevent stick from slipping in the sweat of your hand.
Like OBJ catching it behind your back, kind of like stick gloves.
Like Tommy Lee.
There you go.
Gloves.
All right.
You know, who I'm not gonna approve to wear gloves.
He's also that's pretty good. So he also has a way of being super busy over singer-songwriter style music, but making it just perfectly work.
The dude
Carter
from Dave
Beauford.
Matthews?
Yeah. You should know his name. Carter Beauford. You should
sorry.
know his name. He's one of the best drummers of all time.
Dude, he's so good. So good.
And like he has got like that kind of like that those gospel chops in pocket without overusing it, but at the same time he's so busy, but it doesn't sound like it though. I don't know.
Yeah. That's man, one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard, and I struggle to put it into practice because I'm naturally just a loud drummer. But Buddy Rich said forever ago, man, he was talking about an old recording that he had done, and a bunch of old recordings that he was done, and they're asking him, what's your favorite recording that you've ever recorded? And he's like, oh man, he's like, my favorites are the ones where you can't even hear me playing the drums. Okay? And I kind of sat back and I'm like kind of thinking about it and analyzing it. And then the only thing that I can come up with is that, back in the day, those recordings were done with one mic in a room. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was kind of spaced out evenly to accomplish, okay, we got to get the horns way back because we know they're going to show up on the mic really well. And then we got to get the drums tucked back in the corner. We got to make sure these strings that are a little bit quieter are up here a little bit closer to the microphone so they actually cut through the mix. And it wasn't about one instrument being heard more than the other. It was about the one sound that was going to come out of that microphone, And it was a blend of everything together. And realistically, that's a cool way to look at music. Like if it can be felt even when it's almost not heard, that's a pretty interesting way to kind of tackle, rhythms or playing drums, worrying more about what the final product is than necessarily what you're putting in. And that's kind of the way I've looked at the drums. Like I said, being more of a pocket drummer, or, when I learned to play guitar, I actually played guitar in a touring band for 2 or 3 years, and man, I couldn't solo for my life, dude. But I can play rhythm guitar like nobody's business.
Really?
All right? I filled in bass for a whole tour for another band because I can play rhythm like nobody's business. Like I play drums, that's kind of my thing. So I know my way around the neck of a guitar or a bass. It was just kind of sitting down, learning the music, getting the chops out, and then going and playing it. So that's kind of a cool way, I think, to look at it is, trying to think of it as that one sound that's actually coming out, the finished product, rather than what everybody's doing individually. You can shred on the guitar, and he can shred on the guitar, and everybody can have their time to shred. But at the same time, if it cohesively doesn't work as one piece of music, then it's not going to make sense.
Right.
Carter Beauford knows how to shred while everyone else is doing their thing and make it make a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. His timing is also pretty much perfect.
Unreal. Yeah.
So it's like,
it is.
So for someone like Dave Matthews, who's like very wordy in his approach.
Yeah.
Like it's hard when your drummer doesn't have that consistency and they're busy. And while you're also very wordy, like the rhythm, it sounds off. But because they're just so perfectly in sync with each other, it just works.
Does he play with anybody else?
I mean, he does a whole bunch of like session stuff. So like, I mean, you can. He did session drumming for years, and honestly, if I pulled up credits, he's been on so much stuff that you'd be like, oh, Carter Beauford played on this. Like, he did studio and session stuff for forever.
Him and Victor Wooten did some stuff together.
Dave
also.
Matthews is his primary project.
Yeah, that sucks. He's such a good drummer and has to be in the Dave Matthews band.
You're an idiot.
You should have saved that for your unpopular opinion part, man.
It's not an unpopular opinion.
I feel, you know what?
That's not an unpopular opinion.
Unfortunately, actually, that should have been
the butt-in joke of every musician.
That should have been my unpopular opinion. Is that I like Dave Matthews.
Yeah, that would be an unpopular opinion.
It's strange how with
little baby.
Usually with musicians he gets such a bad rap. I don't get it because he's so talented and the songs are they're such prolific. It's such prolific songwriting. I just don't get how a musician could hate on them. You don't have to like the music, but you have to acknowledge like the talent in that band.
It was one of those jokes. You've ever heard of that?
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. I'm comedic relief over here.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's pretty good. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man.
So some of your earlier bands. So obviously, like drums wasn't the only thing that you played in bands then.
No. Like I said, I did play guitar, played drums. That was the first love, and I played drums through pretty much every band I was in until I was in high school, or the end of high school, and I was about to graduate. I had decided to move to Nashville, Tennessee.
Woo.
I was gonna go. I had written this whole EP of this pop punk, like alternative rock music that I was super excited about. I was going to go to Nashville with this bass player that I had been roommates with. We were going to put together a band and we were going to do the thing. And I actually drove up to Nashville right before Christmas to get an apartment and actually lock everything in. Our lease was running up. It was time to go. I drove all the way up there, put in a lease payment, drove all the way back. And then 2 days before we were set to move in, found out that my roommate's credit was awful and that they were going to charge us like double what we had paid for a deposit to actually get into the apartment. At this point, we were trying to move across half of the country to some extent, and we're like 19 years old. I'm like, all right, well, we're not moving to Nashville, Tennessee anymore. So I got some money sent back, rented a place over on the west side of town, not far from where I grew up, and just hit up all the guys that I had played in bands with at like the Imperial and Murray Hill Theater and Jackrabbits over the years. Hit up a bunch of guys that I was close with from other projects and was like, hey, let's put together this cool group behind all this music that we wrote. We had 3 guitars. It was unreal. It was kind of a weird thing for a pop punk band, but it actually took off really well. And we toured pretty heavily for the next 2 or 3 years.
What was the name of it?
Radio City Confessions.
Okay.
So we did a lot of stuff, man. It was a whole bunch of fun. And once we actually towards the end of the project, the drummer left, and so I transitioned over to drums towards the end of that project. We put out one more album, and then everything just kind of fizzled out. Everybody got busy, and I actually didn't play in a band for a good few years after that. I kind of just hung out. I went to school in Daytona for audio engineering and music production, and worried about that. And then when I met the dudes in S.P.O.R.E in 2011, I was like, hey, you guys are cool. Like, I had been in the festival scene at that point, and it was a little bit of a different take. It kind of allowed me to get back to drums, which was, like I said, the first love, and the instrument that I'm far more solid at. Let's be real about that. Not don't ask me to play anything really lead related on a guitar.
All right.
Okay, because that cannot really happen. My sausage fingers do not do that. You know what I'm saying? But if you need a power chord, I'm your guy.
All day.
All right, I am
Power
your
chords
guy.
all day.
Okay, you need an octave maybe? Yeah, I can throw that in there.
You got that?
All right, let's go. You know, so like I said, it allowed me to get back to drums, which has always been cool. But I really just wanted to play guitar to be able to help write. And, I wanted to be able to be more of a creative part of the writing process than just playing drums after everybody else had written the song.
Right.
Just kind of brought it to me, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll put some drums on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet.
I can
You already
understand
wrote
that.
the whole thing. I'll put some drums behind it. Boom, boom, ka, boom, boom. Yep. Here we go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when you were getting plugged into the music scene here, were you going out to jams and meeting people like that, or you just kind of fell in with the right people?
To be honest with you, man, when I met all the guys in S.P.O.R.E, I was living in Jax Beach, and just hanging out. Wasn't playing any music at the time. Was thinking about it, going to a lot of festivals, and wanting to be back in playing some music in some form. And somebody called me up to go to this random blues rock bar that used to be out in Jax Beach that was horrid, dude.
No, what are you talking
it was-
about?
That bar's come up
The blues.
quite a bit in this show.
That was the Ritz of music. I don't know what you're talking about. My favorite part about the whole place is the owner of the bar. Like,
Oh,
it was a
man.
hotel, but nobody stayed there. Then he just had a room behind there, and
Like,
he would
lived
just,
in it.
Yeah, he lived in it. And he would just come out every now and then. And I don't think he knew that. We just kind of took over his.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah.
we just took over, and he would just come out every now and then. He's like, "Y'all keep it down. I'm trying to sleep." Like, this is your bar.
Listen. I kid you not. We played there, so I'll make
It's
a
Sea
short.
Chasers now.
I'll make a
Yeah.
long story really short, so I can tell you my story about Frank. Okay,
Yeah,
the
that's-
owner of
that's-
of this place. So
Hope he's
I
doing
got
all right,
called.
Frank.
Hey, you want to come to an open jam? There's some guys up here that are jamming, a keyboard player, bass player, guitar player, but there's no drummer up here. And I'm like, oh well, I got some drums in my car. Like, sure, I'll buzz up there and I'll jam with some people. So I got up there, and that was actually where I first met Steven, Joe, and Alex. Was at Blues Rock. I set up the drums. We jammed all night, kind of just free-form improv. And I could tell that they were all like really talented musicians, but none of them had ever been in like a proper band before. They had never really written like songs and had any sort of structure to it. It was just like, hey, let's all get in a room and you pick 4 chords and let's go.
Yeah.
And so I saw that being something really cool. And having been to the festivals, I saw that this jam aspect was really what I was chasing. I wanted to do some sort of jam, improv, like free form, but I also wanted it to be structured and I wanted it to be electronic. And they just seemed like the perfect dudes to do it. Like they were interested, they were great, they were stoked about it, and they were kind of the missing puzzle pieces, for us to put together a project like that. So, we wrote some songs and recorded the EP. And in February of 2012, we played the first S.P.O.R.E show. And now, from there, that was when I started going to a lot more jam style stuff. Like I did make it to some of the jams at that point when we were playing a lot, because it was one of those things where go out for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, play gigs all weekend. Like by Tuesday, I'm ready to go play drums again.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit at the house the rest of the week and not play music anymore. We just played 3 nights in a row. I want to keep playing. So that was really when I made it to those places the most and got plugged in with everybody. And S.P.O.R.E was a huge kind of catalyst for me getting plugged in with everybody in the jam scene. It was one of those things where I didn't know a lot of people involved in it. I wasn't friends with Jason and everybody in Greenhouse Lounge at this point and all that. So it was kind of difficult for me to get taken seriously as somebody who was actually a musician trying to play some music. And Alex and Joe and Steven kind of had that friendship base that was into the jam scene and was into that style of music. And it made it easy to kind of just mesh everything together. Once we started playing, it just kind of all made sense. But yeah, man, that's like I said, that's how that kind of all started.
Hey everyone, just want to take a second to talk to you about one of our favorite music venues, Blue Jay Listening Room. Blue Jay is a space for true music lovers where every ticket is a backstage pass. Silence your cell phones, enjoy a nice glass of wine or craft beer, and be part of an intimate experience unlike anywhere else in Jacksonville. Hear national and local artists sing their original songs and share the stories behind them in a space carefully curated for the premier show-going experience. I personally have seen some of my favorite shows here, as well as having played with some of my heroes. Not only is Blue Jay a wonderfully unique experience, it has become a staple in the Florida music scene. Mention Bottom of the Bill on your next visit and receive 10% off your tab. Blue Jay is located at 2457 3rd Street South, Jacksonville Beach, and be sure to check out www.bluejayjacks.com for news, ticketing, and events. So,
Blues Rock, the epicenter for jam bands.
Yeah,
so
Frank's right,
so
story.
listen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought it back up. All right, so my story about Frank. Okay, I'll parlay 2 separate nights into one quick thing. Frank actually came out at 6 a.m. one time when we were playing some weird, crunchy after party inside of this bar.
Was it for Halloween?
Something like that.
Yeah, it was for the sunrise on Halloween because Lucky played that too.
It was crazy. We played there a couple times. We played there once after Skrillex and like the 2 Fresh Guys came out. And
Skrillex
it was, like,
played
6 in the
Freebird. I
morning.
don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, and then we played once for some sort of other like crunchy Sunday after party.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. So they open up this like bar on the beach at like, it's open at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. They're just not serving alcohol. And at 6 they can start serving booze. But we're in there playing at like 4 in the morning. And all of a sudden, this guy walks in with a Fender Strat with a wireless system and rolls in like a Marshall tube combo amp, right? Rolls it out of his hotel room into the room we're playing in and goes, yo, I want to jam with y'all. Okay, and it was me and Steven at the time, just doing like some weird drum and bass stuff for all these kids who'd been awake all night.
Yeah.
And, so we're like, all right, sure, man. Like, yeah, let's go, get it going. And, dude, that guy rock starred out for all 30 people that were there so hard. I mean, he was running around the room soloing with this wireless system, getting up in girls' faces like, oh, I mean, he was all over the place. And I'm like,
good?
He was great. He was actually a killer guitar player, but it was one of those things where I was like, this makes perfect sense. Like, you're just like the weird drunk bar owner that's actually like incredibly talented. You just live in this hotel room and drink every bit of your talent away 24/7.
And then somehow you have a restaurant on the beachfront.
So that guy was Frank.
So
then.
wild. That was Frank. And then the last time I saw Frank, I got paid to do a DJ gig. Fast forward like a year later, got paid to do a DJ gig, and they tried to stiff me at the end of the night, the bar manager at Blues Rock right before they closed. So I went back to Frank's door and banged on Frank's door. And Frank opens up the door, and I'm like, hey, Frank, they're supposed to pay me $200 tonight, bro, and they're saying they're not going to. And I was like, you going to come up here and give me $200? And he's like, yeah, give me a minute. Shuts his door, comes out. Dude, I shit you not. He went up there. He was throwing liquor bottles in the kitchen.
Oh, my
Liquor
God.
bottles were smashing everywhere. And literally goes up to the register, pops the register open, takes $200 out of it, hands it to me, and then looks at the tip bucket and goes, pours all the cash in the tip bucket and hands that to me, too, on the bar, and goes, have a good fucking night, man. There's your money. And I'm like,
Oh,
sweet,
my
dude.
God.
All right, peace out.
I wonder what
See you later.
Frank's
Bar
doing.
must have been
Oh,
pissed.
dude.
Probably living the high life. You sold that place to Seed Chasers.
Oh my
and
gosh,
everything.
man! For how many millions I could only imagine.
Yeah. Well, good for him, but
Yeah.
I never saw him.
Oh,
I just would
yeah.
hear
I
stories
saw him.
about it and
Oh,
everything
yeah.
like that. But you should have seen the
Jammed with him, dude.
behind
Really
the
weird, dude. Really weird.
behind the stage. Excuse me, behind the stage where we would play. It just had Marshall stacks like across the board. It was so cool.
Were they actually working
No,
Marshall stacks?
no.
Who
They were
knows?
like those. No, they were
They're the
those
fake ones?
mock things
Yeah.
that they use on like stages. That looks
Yeah.
like 2 sets of half stacks stacked next to each other.
So
You
maybe
just
we
have,
can-
like 8 of them across the wall.
So
to
maybe
make the
we
whole
can
wall.
get Frank on here and just kind of
Bro.
investigate what happened. But
That'd be fun.
Oh, dude. If you can find Frank, please let me know.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably missing. But one of my favorite parts was the $15 all you can drink night.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
yeah,
those?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
You paid $15. There was no cover for the show. $15, and you could just drink as much as you wanted.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Most ridiculous thing
but they
ever.
were constantly like running out of beer halfway through the night.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And stuff like that. And it was kind of just, man.
It's a terrible business model, but
Yeah,
it's
the-
fun
yeah,
for everyone who's there.
Oh, yeah. Dude.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it was like absolutely like the worst idea. But he was like, "Yeah, this will work. Who cares?
Yeah.
It'll get people in. It'll get people in."
Yeah. Yeah.
So with S.P.O.R.E, you kind of took on the role of like the booking agent and like the manager. Yeah.
You did everything.
Yeah.
So was that your first time taking on that role, or did you do that in other bands beforehand?
Yeah, man. I kind of in my first band, I kind of felt like it was one of those things where nobody really knew how to take the reins and do it. And so I just kind of tried to figure it out, you know what I'm saying? Stepped up and sent out some emails, kind of putting it out there, hey, we want to play some shows. And people got back to me. And then from there, it just developed. And being that I've stayed in the Jacksonville area, you know, most of my life, I mean, I've been booking shows with Tim Hall with Jack's Live since I was 14, dude. He's been answering my emails. And I was 14 the first time I ever played Jackrabbits. My mom drove me up, dropped me off out front, and when I got back in the car at the end of the night, she looked at me and said, "You won't be able to come back here until you're 18 years old." And I was like, "Oh, what the heck?" You know what I'm saying? She's like, "You're 14. You can't play in this seedy dive bar in San Marco."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." I totally oblivious to any danger actually being there because, you know, I hung out at the Imperial across from the Greyhound station downtown. So that wasn't much better, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, it was one of those things where I just took that role on, man, and once I had those contacts, it was just easier for me to reach out than it was anybody else. And then when it came to promotional things, I've always kind of just had a knack for doing the promo for stuff, you know, whether it's creating flyers or whether it's kind of trying to create a marketing campaign behind something. You know, S.P.O.R.E used to do the Sportoberfests that we did for a few years where we would play every single weekend in October somewhere in Jacksonville, and we pushed this huge marketing thing behind it that was like, everybody get ready for Sportoberfest. We're playing the next 4 weekends in Jax, you know, all over the place, free shows, come check it out.
That's super
and we'd
cool.
make kind of a spectacle about it, and that was, you know, that was just kind of this brainchild I had one day that was like, oh yeah, Sportoberfest, that rolls off the tongue all right. So, you know, it was something that I took on in early bands and did all the booking, did all the promotion, and I hate to say that once I got good at it, it became one of those things that I found hard to let go of. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've hired managers at times in bands that I've played in to kind of try and step back from that role and not have as much to do with it. And really, honestly, it just ends with me answering a million phone calls and emails to whoever is managing the project. And it's like, well, if I was going to answer all these phone calls and all these emails,
Would be paying you to do
wouldn't
it.
I just do it anyways?
That's kind of how I feel about it a lot of the time too, where it's I don't have as much of a grasp on the promotional side of it. I think that a lot of other people do, or that you might have. But as far as the booking and the managing goes, like that side of it comes, I think, very natural to me. So like, and we've like hired people outside to handle those kind of things, and it's the same thing. It ends up just being me on the phone, just talking to the middleman, where it's like I could have done this.
More bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's just like I could have. Like the idea is that you should be better at this than I am, and you should know you should know things that I don't, or you should be able to do things that I can't, or have contacts that I can't reach, or whatever it might be. But I ended up being the exact opposite, and it's okay. Well, this isn't, you know, I'll handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean, man. And like I said, it comes down to the same thing with me, even for the promotional side. You know, I did the promotions for all of the bands that I've ever been in, and you know, it was kind of one of those things where I've also hired like social media marketing guys, you know, that are supposed to sit there and schedule out all the posts and make it all happen for me. I just got to give them content, and they're going to make it look good, and they're going to post it, and it's going to hit at all the right times. And it just basically ended with me taking a bunch of pictures that I still had to upload to something and then send to somebody else. And then I got to coach them on what exactly to write, because half the posts, there's nobody that's going to display your project or put a name put the investment behind the project more than you, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? You're always going to be the one who's the most stoked, the most excited about it. And it just ran into times where when I removed the promotional aspect from, me doing it, somebody who had a personal attachment to the actual project, it just turned into a mess. And it just turned into me kind of being like, silently judging everything that came out, trying to not feel like a jerk when I tell this person, hey, I'm paying you money every week, but I don't really like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a personal thing. And if you're, I guess, gifted to do that sort of thing, I think that's just something you got to run with, man. There's people, everybody's got a different talent, and I think that there's always that guy in the band that you can just pick out within about 10 minutes and be like, all right, this dude's probably the one who's making sure everybody makes it home at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic here.
Yeah.
This guy's figuring it all out.
Yeah.
And these guys are gonna party hard, and he's gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
I was that guy, and like every band, band dad, So, but I wouldn't have it any other way either.
Yeah.
So.
That's an important part of being in a band, is being able to realize your role in the band, and also as somebody who's taking the reins, kind of understanding what everybody else's role is and then delegating accordingly. I think that's an important thing.
What's my
Definitely.
role?
You handle a lot of the media stuff.
I do.
But I still have to do all the social media stuff,
Exactly,
but
Still got a manager.
yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
There's also one thing I've realized about
Me?
no, not about you. God, you're so into yourself.
Gotta be.
I love
Confidence
it, man.
everything.
Yeah, get into yourself, bro.
Whatever.
There's the
You trying to get
aspect
into me,
of
bud? What's up?
there's sometimes
Just finish your sentence.
I'm trying to, but you're like the worst human being in the world.
Oh, come on. In the world?
In the world.
Maybe in Duval County.
My least favorite person alive is you.
Okay, thank you.
There is one thing that I think that kind of helps to not be so personally attached to something, and that's in the negotiating prices aspect of things.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you're different, but I've heard other artists at like different levels than where we're at, and it goes for myself as well, where they'd rather have somebody just represent them just because it's like, you want the opportunity, so you're not going to fight for your actual worth when you're so attached to that project. On the other hand, somebody who has no emotional investment in the project says, "Hey, here are the numbers. These are just the facts. This is what they're worth, and you don't want to pay it. Then fuck you. We don't need to do the gig." That's where I would want somebody where I need somebody to come in and do that kind of shit.
Oh yeah, man.
I'm the worst with that.
Yeah.
$200 to headline a festival. Yeah, I'm down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, man. You hit the nail on the head there. I feel the same exact way, man. I have a different, interesting aspect on it, because obviously I went from being somebody who booked just my art all the time to being somebody who worked in a live music venue and had to book stuff that had to be on the other side of the token.
Yeah.
I had to be that guy who had emailed me so many times and been like, "Hey, y'all need $100 a man a night? Cool, I can give you $50 a man a night." That was kind of me now. Like, it was like, and realistically, you get into that position and you sit back and you go, okay, all right, we got a budget here that, we're a ticketed room, and it's different if you're working in like restaurants or like, bars that have like a built-in fan base, or a built-in restaurant that's making like, extreme amounts of money all day, every day. I get it. Mellow Mushroom obviously has no problem paying a band to play 3 hours on Saturday night, because they've been open for 12 hours just absolutely crushing it.
Right.
So you get it. But then you go into like a 400 cap music venue like 1904 Music Hall, and you got to figure out how to put a bunch of different events in the same room during the same week and make them all do okay enough to feel like at the end of the night everyone's not totally ticked off about the situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's an interesting aspect, man. And it's hard to navigate those waters. I would totally agree with you. Like, as far as playing in bands, man, I will when somebody wants me to play something and I'm invested in the idea of playing it, I'll play it for almost nothing.
Yeah.
To a fault. And it's not a good thing. It's just I want to share what I'm doing, and I want to do cool things. At the end of the day, yeah, I want to make money, but I also want to play cool shows. I want to play with bands that I like at places that I like, and I'll tell you, if Tim Hall called me tomorrow and offered me a bag of potato chips to play at the St. Augustine Amphitheater again, I would be there in 5 seconds, right? Because I love that place, and it's great, and it was a blast the one time we played there. So, I would do that again for almost nothing. Now, if you tried to get me to play a show at the Pit with the chain link fence right now for $1,000, I'd probably be like, Saturday's booked, bro.
Yeah.
Saturday's booked. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got a long day of naps in store, and maybe some tacos in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's about it. So, like I said, you have to kind of find somebody to remove yourself from that process, because it is hard for you to put a dollar amount on what your art is worth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, even look at like collectible art, like, the paintings and stuff like that. Like, a lot of this art wasn't valuable when the painters were alive and were actually painting it,
right,
because they put these evaluation on their art that was horrible,
right,
historical art pieces, and they're like, oh yeah, I was selling for $50-$80, whatever. It's crazy. But then once they've passed away and years go by and the appreciation builds for that, obviously these prices skyrocket.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where, you've just gotta go in knowing that if you are gonna book your own project and you are gonna negotiate those terms, you've got to be stout about it. If you need $300 to play the gig, you got to get $300.
Right.
And if the agent wants to book you that bad, they'll make $300 work. And if they can't, then they'll realistically tell you. I mean, there are so many times I wanted to book a band that I couldn't book because it just wasn't in the budget to pay them that much.
Right.
Realistically, we live in Jacksonville, Florida. Y'all play in a band, y'all know, like, it's a big spread out town where there's little pockets all over the city where you don't have to go 10 or 15 minutes from your house to do pretty much anything or see any sort of entertainment, and people get very creature of habit. They go to do the same thing every single week. You know what I'm saying? It's bingo on Wednesday. I eat chicken wings on Thursday. I watch football on Sunday. Yeah, it's like, okay, cool, I got it. But at the same time, how do you market your art to somebody in event style when you have a city that's that spread out? You literally just attack it all the time. You literally put your project out there 24/7 in every single avenue that you can. You try and talk about it every single time you see somebody or you run into somebody, while you also try to not feel like the guy who's always talking about what he's got going on.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance, man. But I think as musicians, we just try and figure it out.
I've buried that embarrassment when it comes to promoting myself. I'm just like, you're going to come see my show. You're going to.
Yeah, dude, you have to be shameless about it.
Shameless, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you have to be.
I still haven't gotten one of my friends from the beach to come visit me in Riverside. They won't do it.
I get it.
That is a wild dynamic that I had to get used to when I moved to Jacksonville, because it's like if you're in South Florida, like, not to say there's not like the neighborhood people that just stay in the neighborhood, but it's like if you're not where the action's at, there's no action, right?
Yeah,
so it's like
nothing going on there.
So it's like you have Fort Lauderdale and like downtown, and then that's where you go. You have Miami. Miami's kind of like spread out like Jax, but also it's like, you kind of in those spots where there's stuff going on, it's like a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
So you kind of, and like where I was at in the suburbs, smack dab in between the two of them, we had like 2 bars you could go to.
Yeah.
So you had to go to Miami or to Fort Lauderdale if you wanted to have any kind of a good time, which is just what we did. Like, you just went. When we moved to Jacksonville, it was like, well, I don't cross the ditch. I live at the beach. And it's like, what do you mean you don't cross the ditch?
They don't cross the ditch.
That's the most wild concept ever.
If I want to do shit down south, I had to drive half an hour in each direction to get somewhere.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's just what you did. It was such a wild dynamic when I moved here.
Oh, yeah, man. Like I said, I grew up on the west side of Jacksonville where it was 30 minutes to anything. Like, I mean, you know, it was even just to drive to high school for me in the morning was 28 miles from like my parents' front door to high school.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, I lived on the edge of the county. We were way out. We're in like the last place that you can address a letter to and name it Jacksonville, and it's still going to show up, you know? So I was always used to those drives. And it didn't really bother me. We were kind of the same way. If you wanted to go to a music venue, you had to drive downtown to the Imperial or over to San Marco to Jackrabbits or over to Murray Hill Theater. Like, those were really the Club 5 over in 5 Points. Like, those were the only places that we could go see concerts or anything else, because where we lived, it was, you know, like TNT Liquor Package Lounge, you know, and that was about it, you know. And unless I wanted to run into like my girlfriend's dad there, I wasn't at TNT Lounge and Liquors at 16, you know. So it was weird, man. But yeah, Jacksonville definitely has. People get way too caught up in just, you know, the day to day. They get way too routine, and that's something that I feel like I've always coming from being musicians. It's something that we're not wired to understand super well.
Right.
It's weird when you go to like another city and it's not like that at all, and it's just like, oh, there's like a ton of people. If you go down to St. Petersburg,
oh yeah,
and you're just like, there's so many people. Like, what is the deal? And I'm like, we came here to see music. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh yeah, man. It's funny. S.P.O.R.E definitely had better turnouts in St. Petersburg the first few years of the project than we did in Jacksonville.
So do we.
Yeah. It was unreal. You go to St. Pete, Tampa, and play for like twice the crowd twice as many people on a Saturday night as we just played in our hometown with on a Friday.
And here's the thing: they're not even coming to see you. They're coming to see good music, and they respect the venues that they're at, like Ringside Cafe or
Ringside Cafe.
Ringside, that's the one, right? And you play down there, and people just know that there's going to be good music there, and that's the way that it used to be at Freebird, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree.
And that's what I love so much about Freebird. But
it's not even just that they're coming to see good music. Like, they'll actually remember you better there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where
it's like
people pay more attention.
Legitimately. And also there is a bit of the allure that you're from out of town. You're a touring band, so that kind of helps as well. But I mean, versus like, you know, it's just what we've gone to St. Pete several times, and we always feel the love a little bit more there than when we do when we're playing locally. Not to like hate on anybody.
Go ahead and sell our fans out.
No, not at all. Not at all. Everybody that comes to support us, I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. I'm just saying that, just generally speaking, that we there's more people that seem to be interested in new things that are going on.
It goes back to what he said, that like everyone's got their little pocket and their creature's habit and everything like that. There's no reason to go all the way downtown.
Yeah, I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying.
It's just because this place is too goddamn big.
No, and I'll also throw out there one thing that I've noticed, you know, coming from, I constantly am analyzing, you know, when we would play in St. Pete and we would have these bigger crowds, I'm like analyzing, why does St. Pete seem so much better than Jacksonville? Like, why are we, you know, there was a point in time where the band actually discussed like moving down south because the reaction to the music,
half of them
was better. It was, and they really did. You know what I'm saying? But we had discussed that. Like, what if we all moved to Dunedin?
Yeah.
Like, what if we just did that? Like, we could play Ringside and the Blueberry Patch and Dunedin Brewery, and those will be like the house shows. And then when we come back to Jacksonville, the shows will probably do better because we're only playing here once every few months. Yeah. The big issue was, for a band at that point where we were at, you're moving 4 hours further from every other spot in the country.
That's the hard part.
And it's like, why do I want to add 4 hours to every single drive? Why do I want to make a 6-hour drive to Atlanta, a 10-hour drive? Because we do play in Atlanta once or twice a year. So it made it hard to kind of figure that part out.
You also would have had the same problem that you were having here in St. Pete had you moved there.
100%. You know? There's an oversaturation because, let's be real, all the bands everybody wants to play. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to play music, but there's only so many nights in the week, and there's only so many genres of music in the town, and there's only so many bands that you mesh with on a bill, and before you know it, I mean, you can't throw 4 of the same event 4 nights in a row and expect that the same 100 people that listen to that style of music are going to pour out all 4 nights.
Right.
It's just not feasible. So, I think that what I realized about St. Pete in particular is I noticed that a lot of, like, just people that I really like their mindset in general, like a lot of really cool people seem to be just like flooding to St. Pete. And then you see the downtown, and it's like there's bars everywhere.
Yeah.
And people are like, every block there's like 3 or 4 bars, and there's bands playing all over the place, and there's people drinking out in the street, and there's people walking from bar to bar to bar for like blocks. And, Jacksonville doesn't really have that proper downtown. Obviously, Jason and, Dwayne over at 1904 at Underbelly now, they got a Headroom and Spliffs. Like, they're trying to build this entertainment district where we can start to have that vibe.
But nobody lives downtown, though.
Nobody
That's
really
the problem.
lives downtown. And honestly, why would you want to? I work downtown, and I didn't want to live down there.
Yeah.
So,
it's pretty bad.
it's just, it's not... Until downtown kind of catches up, it's going to be a destination location. You go downtown if you're going downtown to do something.
Yeah.
If you're going to a football game, you're going to a concert, you're going to something else, you're going to go down there. And eventually, if we can get what it takes is a lot more people than just, Jason and Dwayne or a couple bar owners
kind of putting it all on his own.
Stepping in on a block.
He's doing a hell of a job, though.
Yeah, dude, he's doing a great job. But
you need 2 or 3 Jasons.
You need 2 or 3 Jasons, man, and you need them to buy up the whole block all the way down, and you need to build that entertainment district, And when you get that, you'll start to see people being like, I mean, if you live downtown, what would you do? You go to Headroom and Spliffs every single day, or occasionally eat at Superfood and Brew or Burrito Gallery. Like, I mean, you can't shop down there. There's no grocery store. There wasn't a proper coffee shop until Headroom opened. I mean, that was open in the mornings.
Yeah.
Nope, not a thing down there. You got to go to Bold Bean over in Riverside.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, man. But St. Pete has a lot of people coming there that love music and love what that community is doing, and I think that's just blossomed, like that whole home team vibe down there, and all the people that are involved with that obviously bring just this like high energy aspect to being a music fan.
Yeah.
And that's something that is pretty cool to see people get really genuinely excited about the tunes when you play them out a lot of nights and everybody just kind of seems like they're phoning it in,
It is wild, though. Like, sometimes there'll be shows in 1904. Like, I think it was about this time last year when, what's his name? Theo Cashman played, right?
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
You sold out, like, immediately.
Yeah, amazing.
And so it's like 400 cap room. And I'm looking around, and I was sitting in the back with Steven, and we're like, and Chelsea was there, too, actually.
Yeah.
And we're just like, who the fuck are these people?
These people.
I didn't know one person that was there.
No.
So it's there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get them to? I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I think that it's one of those things.
$1 million question, but
yeah.
Or even like when Mavericks used to have like music nights and teachers and stuff on Fridays and Saturday nights over there. There'd be 1,000 people in there.
Oh yeah,
It was ridiculous.
No, I mean it's like Big Gigantic or any of those other bands that would play at Mavericks every once in a while that were involved heavily in the jam community, and I would go out and go, okay, I know about 100 people in this room very well. I've seen you at pretty much every show, every 2 weeks for the last 5 to 7 years, 10 years. I've been going to shows in Jacksonville involved in this community. The rest of them, I'm looking around going, where'd y'all come from?
Yeah.
Like, y'all all go to college or something around here? Because I'm feeling rather old at the moment, and I'm kind of sitting here going like, how do I not know you? Is this your first time at a concert, my friend?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's weird, man, because Jacksonville is so big, and we constantly have, I think we forget about it being people here, but like, dude, as crazy as it is, people travel here to go to like UNF and stuff like that. Like, people from Georgia and Alabama and all over the Southeast come to Jacksonville to go to school. I'm sure they show up here and are like, oh my God, what was I thinking? To some extent, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I'm going to go to Jacksonville. That seems really cool. And then they get involved in the music scene, but if you're not plugged into their friend group or their social settings or live on their side of town, maybe you don't go to UNF or you don't go to the restaurants and bars that are over there, Atlantic and Kernan area,
or you're not a national
you might never
touring
meet
act.
these kids.
Yeah.
Unless it is Big Gigantic showing up and they're like, oh, man, I saw Big Gigantic at Rolling Loud one time. Man, yeah, big gigantic. And
That's-
it's like, all right, sweet. You know?
That's kind of the thing, man. Is that Jacksonville's it's a small population for the size of the city.
Yeah.
So and there's not a huge range of demographic as far as like what people are going to be like music and art and that kind of stuff. So I mean, not to say there's not any, but it's not like as obvious on the surface.
Yeah.
So I think that we're kind of like one of those cities where it's like once it's been tested and approved in other areas, then it's like, okay, well you can do well in Jacksonville now, but you're probably not gonna test your product out here for the first time and get any real results because people really aren't going to take the chance on you. Yeah,
it's difficult, man. It's
and that's not a slight at the culture of the people here. It's not that people here aren't down for new things.
No.
It's just that it's like we're saying, it's so spread out, and it's not like like even we were talking before we started about social media and stuff like that. There's so many bands and so many artists coming out of this city that aren't like on that side of it, and that's
yeah.
And it's like it's a city that's kind of like in a lot of ways with so much potential, just a little behind the ball on a lot of the modern things going on.
But you'd agree though that it's growing, right?
Of course, it's growing. Yeah, that's why I love the city so much. Is because
The
that there's
potential.
the potential, and because there's people here that want to do things to make a difference.
Yeah.
And
They
it's
sure
better-
did knock that giant. I don't know what you were going to call it, the Lot J thing.
Oh yeah, they shut that down.
Yeah,
Shut that down fast.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah. Which and it, I'll get into my honest opinion with it real quick. As cool as it would be for the city of Jacksonville to give Shad Khan a ton of money to build this really killer
Entertainment.
entertainment
That's what it was gonna be.
area in downtown, is it not just another landing? Like, and at some point, I mean, Shad, he's a rich guy. He's successful. He's made a lot of money for himself. At some point, can Shad not just, if you want to build a big building, go ahead and build a big building, homie.
Yeah.
Like, you got a lot of cash. Like, go take out a bank loan. I'm sure your credit's good.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But you don't really need $220 million to build an entertainment district downtown when I-95's been under construction since I was in my mom's womb. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not a thing that why spend the money? And then also think about the businesses, and this was my honest opinion when I heard about it. Think about the businesses like Justice Pub and 1904 and Headroom and even Myth Nightclub and all these businesses that invested into downtown to try and be entertaining places to go. And then you're going to give Shad $220 million to build this state-of-the-art, amazing entertainment complex 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Where everyone's going to be driven down to this new entertainment complex. And really, honestly, if you're somebody from out of town, are you going to go check out 1904 and Spliffs and everywhere else? Or are you going to go check out the $200 million entertainment complex that Shad built on the river?
I don't know.
It gets people there, though.
That's what I was gonna say. That's my thing about it. And it was.
I see your point, though.
$550 million, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
Little bit more.
Let's go ahead and say that's just outlandish.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
let's
it
be
is.
real
And
about
that's
it.
why it got shut down, is because they were basically robbing the city with that. It's like
it's
the monorail salesman
it's
sort
gonna
of deal.
take too much
Which
money.
we do have a monorail.
Yeah.
If he wants to open an entertainment district, how about he start opening his yacht on Fridays and Saturday nights? I'd pay to have a party in that place. I'm telling you what.
Anything to play Shad Khan's yacht. That would be so great.
That'd be pretty cool.
That's a good band name too.
Shad Khan's
Shad
yacht.
Khan's yacht.
I'm gonna write that
There
down.
you go. Write it down,
Write
bro.
that one down. That's a good one.
All right, so so we've kind of touched on a little bit so far, but the side of the industry that I'm very passionate about, that I think more people in scenes like this need to be educated on, is the promotional side of it, and understand distinguishing between the realities of a band pursuing original music versus the bar scene. So you made the transition after S.P.O.R.E kind of took kind of like a hiatus.
Yeah.
You started working at 1904 and you got into the promotion side of things. Why did you do that? And do you feel like your experience with S.P.O.R.E kind of made you more interested in that side of it?
Yeah, man. It was one of those things where from the time I was 15, 16 years old and started booking shows, man, the dream job was to like work at a venue. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I want to play in a band. Like, yes, I want to be a rock star. I'm 15, 16. I want to play drums for the rest of my life. But then there was like the sensible part, the little angel on the other shoulder that's like, you could still be involved in the music industry and throw concerts. You could make a living doing this, and you don't have to be a rock star to do that. And so, but then at the same time, you want to play in bands. So when I played so much music that I finally just kind of got burnt out on it, man. When S.P.O.R.E went on hiatus, I was just at a point where I was really done investing the time into really every aspect of it. I didn't want to play out 4 nights a week anymore. I didn't want to travel all the time, and I wanted to do something different. So I did. I stepped in at 1904, and it was a major transition, but it definitely set me up. My relationship with Jason grew heavily when I was in S.P.O.R.E, and I booked at 1904 with him constantly. And when the opportunity kind of arose, Jason kind of came to me like, yo, man, having had the experiences I have had with you booking shows here, you'd be the perfect person to do this, man. He's like, you were always so great to work with. It was you were easygoing. And I was like, yeah, man, as long as we got all the info, then everything's good to go. That's really the only time anybody ever gets ticked off when they show up to a show, right? Is when you don't have all the info. Right. When you show up and you thought there was a PA there and there's not. Right. Or you show up and you thought there was monitors there or there's not. Or you show up and the sound engineer is supposed to be there, but he's not. Right. That's when problems occur. So for me, it prepared me to step into it. And like I said, it was a dream job, man. It was a killer job that I loved very much, and I cherished every second that I was there. But it was one of those things where stepping into the promotional aspect of things, I had to figure out, like I said, how to I was used to booking my band in a different room in a different city like 4 or 5 nights a week.
Right.
So I had like a different audience to promote to. I had a different bar to promote around, whether they had a following or not. I had, different bands in different areas that I could kind of use to piggyback if they were playing the show and promote to their friends, Whereas when you start booking in the same room every single night, you really got to figure out how you're going to actually promote these shows and how you're going to base them. You're going to have 5 different shows a week that are all going to have a turnout. And like I said, nobody's going to be mad at the end of the night.
Right.
And I think, with promotion in the sense that we're in, social media, I was talking about earlier, even for my business now, my screen printing business, social media is like pretty much the way to reach people. I mean, it's where 90% of my business comes from. It's where 90% of the people who walk through the doors at these music venues we play at hear about these events. I mean, realistically, that's where everybody goes to get what they're going to do for that week.
Right.
So I feel like I became very okay with the idea, as Billy was saying so eloquently earlier.
Thank you.
Just becoming shameless.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to get to a point where you're like, all right, listen, I believe in this, and I want to sell. I have to sell it. That's what I have to do to be able to be successful with it, right? Like, I got to get new people interested in it all the time. And the only way to really do that is constantly be selling the product, constantly be working at trying to get people to come and check out what you have going on.
It's like a walking billboard, basically.
It really is, man.
That's what I try to be everywhere.
Yeah, you have to. And what I found is, in the Facebook and the Instagram and, even stuff like Snapchat and TikTok now, like, they all have these dedicated fan bases of people that are on them 24/7 almost, man. I mean, there's somebody across the world that's just sitting there scrolling all the time, tons of people. And if you put your content out there just all the time, you just blast it. And, a lot of people talk about, I don't want to get like shadow banned. I don't want to post so much stuff that they think I'm going to get like spammed. Like, I don't want to worry about. Okay, well, here's the problem. We all know that on our Facebook business accounts, we're only 10% of our audience is actually seeing what we're posting in the first place. Okay, so if I have 4,000 followers and I make a post and only 40 people get to see it, well, then I just made a post that day, 40 people saw it, moving on. If I make 4 posts that day and 40 people see it, and then let's say that one of the posts actually does pretty good. I get a couple comments on it. I engage back with the comments. I get somebody who shares it. Then somebody else shares it. Now, all of a sudden, instead of getting the 40 people that I would have gotten on my one post that day, that one post could get 200. And then all the other little 3 ones, they got 40 apiece. No big deal. It is what it is. 1 like, 40 views. Who cares? It's about putting your product out there all the time and not being scared because you're fighting a battle. They want you to pay for the promotional aspect. They want you to boost your posts. And I'm not going to say we had mixed conversations about that earlier. In times, it works great. And other times, I feel like I wasted some money. And, I can't get past that. I feel like organically reaching your fan base is the best thing you can do. And I think when events start up again, if my bands are going to be going back to like handbills. I'm going to get flyers with the shows coming up for the next couple months, and I'm going to hand them out at the merch table. I'm going to hand them out to people walking out the door at the end of the night because I think that you're going to see this mentality also where it's going to come back to more of a what's the word I'm looking for?
Organic?
Yeah, like an organic kind of like analog thing because you also have these people who, let's be realistic, social media can be pretty toxic and it can be pretty awful. Yeah. And, if I could only tell you how many times I've said in my life that if I wasn't involved in a band or the music industry, that I wouldn't have a Facebook and I wouldn't have an Instagram.
I hate it.
I've said that a million times. And it's because realistically, it sucks to have to deal with sometimes.
I haven't had to pass out handbills outside of Freebird, and like at the end of the night, you just go out of the fucking Kinko's, get 500 handbills, and just sit outside there.
Isn't this just the story of existence though? It's
everything
like
just
it just
circling
circles
back around.
because
100%.
it gets so oversaturated
100%.
where you're just like, okay, well, I could promote another show on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but who's actually out there passing out flyers now? And like how many people would think like if they got a flyer in their hand, they would be like, that's fucking weird. Who's doing
100%.
that now? Yeah. And they'd probably look at that and be like, all right, I don't know, I'll check it out maybe. I don't know.
100%.
It's just like it's like the wheel just constantly gets reinvented. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. So maybe you're onto something with that. Maybe we should start doing that for our February 5th show at Jackrabbits with Side Hustle and Mr. Cool and Alchematic.
Please don't make me do that again.
Hey, listen.
You want to talk about shameless? I could fucking sell snow to an Eskimo with a fucking handbill. Like I'll just be like, you want to come to this? My pockets used to say free sex show, and then he would hand out what? And they'd be like that. I'm like, that's a good one.
You're really making this a hard sell for me, Bill.
I know, I'll do it. I'm just saying, God, it's just so.
Man,
it's a little demeaning.
It was.
Yeah, it's the most shameful thing.
It was monotonous, and it was you had to be shameless to do it. But at the same time, man, I think that a lot of people have gotten away from the concept of realistically, people, they want to like your music, right? But they also want to like you.
Yeah.
And there's so many avenues that I can think back to in S.P.O.R.E where I wasn't the party guy that was the hanging out till 4 a.m. and wanted to after party with everybody and meet every single person. But all the other dudes in that band were. Yeah. And if I could only tell you how many doors got opened for me because those guys decided that they were going to stay up and drink all night with some guy in some random city, and the guy just liked them and was like, you know what, the band's kick ass, and these dudes are awesome. And then next thing you know, we were getting on festivals that I had no idea we were going to play, and we were getting offers for money that I had no idea we were going to get offered. And it realistically, you're selling your music, but you're selling you too, and there's a relationship that gets made when you hand somebody a flyer and they actually have some interest. Not the person who tosses it on the ground and doesn't care at all what you say about it.
Oh, I picked that back up.
But me personally, I'm the kind of guy who gets a flyer and at least takes a look at it.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you spark my interest in that 1 second, 2 seconds that I see that flyer, man, there's no telling. I'll probably come see your show.
Yeah.
But there's also that interaction with somebody in a band. Hey, you're sitting out here and you're passing out flyers at somebody else's show. And it's like, yeah, man, because if I make a post on Facebook, 40 people are going to see it. I could sit outside of this door and pass out 100 flyers in 12 minutes, and way more people are actually seeing what I'm saying than they are when I'm typing behind my keyboard.
Yeah, man, for sure.
And
That's
it kind of does about the same amount of work because you're literally just canvassing the same way that you're just posting up like people just scroll through stuff. Those maybe see it for like a second. Those like that 10% that you see.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be shown to you. And you're like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
So
Might
as well just get all of them.
I think it's a great way to kind of, and I think that it's something that like bands, especially coming out of like the, obviously nobody wants you to hand them anything right now, right? They don't want any interaction with you whatsoever.
yeah.
So like in a post-COVID situation where everything's good to go, and it's kosher and okay to hand out flyers to people, I think that that's something that people should really look into, because I think as you see people get tired of the social media platforms, the Facebook fights and the fallouts that are on these social media platforms, and just really the nasty stuff that people say to each other.
or just a saturation in general, just seeing so much of it out there where you just gets lost in all of it, you know?
Yeah.
And you're really focusing on you're going to a show, so you're focusing people that would go to a show.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But there's also a big thing about something that we've been really big on with Side Hustle. Like, we're gonna do this documentary along with the making of our album we've been doing. It's like,
cool.
It's like you have to get, like you're saying, you have to get people invested in you before they can get invested in the music, which is why we're doing those things. First off, it's an interesting experience writing a record and being in the studio. It's really
absolutely
unique, and it's kind of like insane, but it's also like people get an insight to who you really are, especially in the studio, literally at your worst moments as a human being and your best moments as a human being. That full spectrum. You know, so I think you have to give people that real insight beyond just like, hey, we have a show, come see us play.
Yeah,
you know, like,
absolutely. And that's what you're going to see, I think, going forward, man, is like every band's got to find a creative way to engage with their audience on more than just the one show a month that you can play in the area, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why you're seeing like bands going into stuff like Patreons and, you know, like OnlyFans even. I mean, I got to be honest with you, like they're doing it because
hang on. What?
Oh, dude, all sorts. What's the dude? What's the?
It's not just
the
for porn
guy
stars.
from. No, man. A lot of celebrities are going over there, and they're basically treating it like Patreons. It's where you can see behind the scenes stuff that you can't really see anywhere else.
Yeah, like my butthole.
But no, not always your
Nobody
butthole.
wants to see
you know
that
what I'm
shit,
saying?
bro.
So, but Patreon definitely is more of
Patreon's
one of those
that,
spaces where people are treating it properly. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So, but. You kind of almost have to find a way to interact with your fans outside of just being able to play a show for them every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Get
saying?
them invested in them, start charging their asses for it.
Attention spans
joking, guys.
for us. For attention spans for people are short sometimes, man. I mean, and I don't say it to be mean. I say it to be real. Like,
we're all in
my
the same
attention
boat.
span's the same way, man.
Yeah.
I'm on to the next thing so much. I'm always constantly, oh man, I got to get back to this, and I'm already moved on to something else.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where unless you kind of have that constant, like, you know, hey, this is what's going on with us. Hey, this is what's happening here. Hey, check out this stuff that we got going on. And there are people who very much don't mind investing their hard-earned money into something that they get behind. You know, they like the band, they enjoy it, they want to see that documentary. And if it costs $20 a month to subscribe to Patreon, but you get some studio videos every single month that nobody gets, maybe every once in a while you drop a limited edition piece of merch on there that nobody can buy but your Patreon followers, or you gift it to them as something, you make it a special thing where people feel like they're getting the full experience of the band, even though they can't really hang out with you all the time.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what has made a lot of these bands so approachable, like especially in like the mainstream markets. Like Our Last Night was this hardcore band that forever ago, they had a decent following. Their first couple records did really well for them. I had a buddy who went and filled in bass for them up in Maine for a tour with a bunch of larger bands on big venues. Band was doing great. Then the band started doing a whole bunch of live streaming of doing, covers of songs, everything. The band is enormous now to a point where I'm like, oh my God. But all they really do is like these big studio covers now. And then if you like subscribe to some of their stuff and you follow them closely, you can get other studio videos and other updates that nobody's getting or that are around, and it made them seem accessible for the general public. It was like, oh, I almost feel like I can get to know these guys because they're constantly putting something out there.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and
you gotta. Part of the big thing though is like this is like part of like again the issue with or not really the issue, more of like the burden that we have to kind of do in a town like this is like inform people. These are platforms that are that are modern, and this is how you're gonna be able to access music and whatever else it might be, right? Like this is a problem that I was kind of touching on earlier with Jacksonville and a lot of Florida cities and southern cities as a whole. So L.A., New York, Chicago, Austin, Nashville, these towns and their populations and demographics already hit to all this to all these platforms. Like it's that's why these bands in those areas are able to utilize them, or comedians even have been on Patreon for years now. When the pandemic hit, immediately I was like, Patreon for the band. We started doing it, it just never caught on. So we kind of stopped following up with it. But partly, if we were in a place like New York, it probably would have caught on a little quicker.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that's just kind of built into the cake now in those places.
Yeah.
It's kind of, but like. Again, like giving credit to Jacksonville, there's a lot of potential here. It's not that people don't want to grow. They just need to be made in form of like, you know, they need to be made aware of their options in that regard. You know what I mean? Yeah, man.
We're a little late to the curve late to the party on a lot of things. You know, I mean, in the United States as a whole, sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
And then, you know, especially out here on in the Southeast, on the East Coast, sometimes I say Southeast primarily. You know, it seems. People are a lot less, I kind of blame it on, you get like a lot of like really rural areas where people just, you know, one, don't care, or two, don't have internet access or don't want to pay for internet access, or, you know, the entire generation of like older people that live in Florida that want nothing to do with social media or the internet whatsoever.
Right.
They just resist technology.
Right.
And I think when you put all that together in the Southeast, it kind of makes for this like weird spot where, you know, the younger generations are trying to get hip to it and trying to catch up to it, and things like, you know, TikTok, man, I'm not very great with it, but man, let me tell you what.
Gotta get on it.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta do it.
Kid, they're on it, man. Like all the 20-somethings like that were on MySpace and Twitter and all that. I mean, you know, they're all 30-somethings, and all the new 20-somethings are on TikTok and Snapchat.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's one of those things where you can't really be resistant to it. You kind of have to figure out a way to just embrace it, cope with it, and get good at it.
Especially as an artist and musician, man. Especially, or if you're running a business, like you just have to.
Yep.
And like Instagram is still relevant too. So it's like Instagram, TikTok. It's like, and TikTok just signed like something like a $50 or $100 million contract with Sony for music rights. I mean, it's like,
it's insane.
And Facebook hasn't even like gotten hip to the game yet. Facebook is for the younger generation irrelevant.
It's dog ass.
It doesn't matter. Like still it's right now it's still kind of relevant, but like if you're thinking about like the next couple of years, just don't even focus on it. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, these are your platforms to really
YouTube's
be focusing
the only one
on.
that pays.
Nope, not true. Instagram actually just started monetizing. Facebook actually just did too.
What?
TikTok which is why TikTok just signed the deal with Sony. They just started monetizing also. But the problem is with Facebook is that they're late to the game. Nobody wants money from their grandparents. You know what I mean? Like Instagram is still relevant, but give it a couple years, it's gone. TikTok is where it's at right now. It's all monetizable. YouTube is also monetizable and still probably like the peak, like the pinnacle of making money as an artist right now.
I feel like an old man. Whenever I just got TikTok last week, and when I go through it, I'm just like, it's so loud.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's very loud.
No doubt.
It's so loud all the time.
Doubt. I scrolled through it just like, man, am I really out of the loop on what all these dances are and everything
I don't
else?
know
Like,
that.
That's what it is, man.
I mean,
yeah.
when it was like the '90s, like there was
1-2 step.
Tootsie Roll and
Yeah,
shit.
well, yeah.
You knew what that
1994.
was. Like, you knew what the Tootsie Roll was.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, did I just miss all this? Like, is there a song to every single? Or is there a dance to every single song that comes out now on popular radio?
I learned
That's
the
kind of
1-2
what
step.
pop music is
That's
now.
as far as I went.
Okay, are you good at it?
1-2 step. Yeah, it's pretty.
That's good. No, you crushed that, by the way.
Thank you.
Also, I don't think that we grew up in a generation where we filmed everything on our phones or recorded everything on our phones.
No, I think
know,
that was a very foreign concept. It still is kind of foreign for me, man.
For me, it is. Yeah.
To videotape or take pictures of myself doing much of anything.
Yeah.
Whereas I know that, like, when we update our Instagram stories and our even our Facebook story, like, people react very well to it. We actually get a lot of people that reach out and a lot of people that actually view it and send messages and comments based off things. But at the same time, there's something weird for me. I didn't grow up in a generation that sent people pictures of themselves.
Right.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? It was more like we took pictures of things that, like, somebody else wasn't going to be able to see. Like, here's a mountain.
Yeah.
This is a really cool thing to take a picture of so I can show all my friends in Florida this mountain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, let me make sure that the picture is of me and the mountain's just in the background and I'll tag myself in the mountain and everybody's going to know
That's where
it
that
was a mountain.
shameless stuff goes on it. Everybody can do it. So you gotta.
Green screens.
Yeah, you gotta do it. I don't know
Well,
what to tell you.
I played a gig the other night.
Green screens, yeah. Yeah, we should get a green screen. What are we doing?
That'd be amazing.
They're pretty cool.
I
I'm
could
not
do a
gonna lie.
chroma key, but you don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at video editing. I've been doing that since I was a kid, actually.
All right. Well, then
Hey,
get a
yeah,
green
it
screen, let's
sounds
make it
like
happen.
y'all need a green screen.
You want to pay me for a green screen?
No, you gotta pay for it.
All right, I'm gonna get a bed sheet then.
All right.
Perfect.
Have you ever tasted heaven in a glass? Do you pine for the hoppiest brews and palest ales? Do you like food? If so, then Wicked Barley is the oasis that your mouth has been wishing for, walking into the complete barren wasteland that is your life. Wicked Barley is located in Jacksonville, Florida, nestled on the banks of Good Peace Creek. Wicked Barley aims to provide its guests with a wicked experience, offering over 18 house-brewed beers, ciders, and meads on tap. They also have an expansive gastropub-style food menu, including burgers, salads, sandwiches, and more. Whether you are a newcomer or a craft beer connoisseur, there's a little something for everyone at Wicked Barley. Visit them at 4100 Bay Meadows Drive and tell them Bottom of the Bill sent you.
Sold.
So I played a gig the other night, and this party came down. It was like there was like a banquet hall upstairs.
Yeah.
There was a banquet hall upstairs at the place that I was playing at, and then they all, like, the party that was up there came down. It was all these people, like, not probably like around our age, not much younger, but also like maybe a little bit more in tune with today's culture. So this dude's like literally like singing every song and he's like videoing himself doing the whole thing. And I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, and it was also like fun watching him have a good time. But it was also like, I would not think to do that.
Oh, yeah. It's a foreign concept for me as well.
Yeah, it's like that's kind of what I'm getting at with TikTok and all that. It's like we have to get on it. If you're running a business or if you're involved in the arts in any way, you have to kind of get on it. So that's like our next hill to climb, I guess, is we're going to start working on TikTok. But it's just like we have to really try to figure out what it means to actually do that versus the new generation, which is like kids grew up with Instagram and whatever.
Yep.
And now TikTok is a thing, and they're just so used to just like documenting their entire life.
Yeah.
Just like pointless shit that nobody cared about 10 years ago. But it's like all of a sudden people are interested now.
Yeah,
you
man.
know?
It's a wild thing. You know what I'm saying? And
I'm not hating on it.
No, neither am I. Because
I'm just saying it's a weird dynamic
I
to get used
actually
to.
think it's real. I think it's really cool. Like, as much as it is a foreign concept for me, there's something really cool about, now I own a screen printing business, and we do a lot of YouTube style content, screen printing tutorials and, random stuff. But, I had a lot of fun getting into doing that because as foreign as it was for me, I think I have a interesting way of putting things sometimes. And I think that, I have an interesting design concept to how I want the video shot and how I want them edited. And even though it was weird to kind of have somebody following me around with a camera and constantly taking video footage, there was an exhilarating feeling to being uncomfortable with that, but actually seeing a finished product that looks very good in the end, or that people enjoyed watching. And maybe it wasn't even a ton of people. I think probably the best video that we've had on YouTube, my favorite video we've had on YouTube, probably got less than 1,000 views on it in the last 8 months. It's not crazy, but man, that video was a tutorial on how to screen print transfers, and man, I was totally uncomfortable with that. I was not really sure how to actually do a tutorial for anything. I was like, yeah, I know how to do this,
You didn't do any
but you want me to
4-H
like
presentations
explain
as a
it to
kid?
somebody? Well, dude, I did extemporaneous public speaking when I was in high school.
Yeah, you're really good.
So I wrote like speeches and spoke in front of an audience based off of like, facts or whatever I wrote out of a book just to convince somebody that I was right. But it was all agriculture related. So like I've been a skilled public speaker. I have no problem talking in front of people or to people. But it is really strange, I feel like, for me to tell anybody how to do anything. You know what I'm saying? And that was something that in the YouTube thing, like these how-to videos are so successful, and it's like, oh, well, we should do some screen printing tutorials. And I'm like, yeah, but like I learned how to screen print 2 years ago. I'm not authorized to tell anybody how to do anything.
Fake it till you make it,
there's a
bud.
million guys on there that probably know how to do this better than me. But at the same time, that video did really well. And honestly, if you follow every step of that thing, I am confident you will print some amazing screen print transfers.
Yeah.
So it's foreign, but there is something kind of exhilarating about being like, oh yeah, as weird as this is for me, sure, let's shoot a video and I'll explain to people how I do it, and then people react well to it. It's a pretty cool feeling, So I think it's something that we all have to, all the older, I say older generation, but if you're 30 plus, you have to learn, and you own a business or you work in the music industry, you've just got to learn to adapt, and you've got to learn to become comfortable sharing that side of your life with people a little more, because
100%.
Realistically, that's what people are actually looking for.
Yep.
They're looking for you to just talk about it all the time to where they can't forget about it.
Exactly.
And if you can do that, I think you can be incredibly successful.
For sure, man.
That's a good sign of intelligence, though, because intelligent people will have something called a fraud complex. Like you're like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, somebody much smarter or something should be doing it.
Yeah, 100%.
But that means that you're smart already because you're actually doubting yourself. Most
That's
dumbos
a good point.
Don't doubt
think
themselves.
twice. They're the
Yeah,
ones
that's very
jumping
true.
off of fucking, bridges into lakes. and
Sometimes
different
we're
things.
also very successful, though.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Self-doubt is probably the most crippling thing for every musician, for any sort of entertainer or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's why you just got to somehow. I think maybe you're right. Just to get over your shamefulness or whatever, you gotta go hand out some bills outside of
Yeah,
Robert.
Dude,
yeah,
I'm
your comfort
telling you,
zone,
man.
It's gotta
That got my confidence way up. I'm just like, come see
Dude.
my show, come see, because I was just like, do you want to see my show?
You just gotta live outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is. Constantly be there.
Yep.
So I did want to kind of bring it back a little bit, though, because we don't have a whole lot of time left, but there's
I
some
gotta wrap it
topics I
up a
want to
little
touch on. When you worked at 1904 and you were doing the promotion stuff, how did your experience in other bands help you in that role? And then, but also, like, maybe it might have hurt you a little bit at times as well.
So it definitely helped me in the sense of, like I said, I was used to trying to promote multiple events in a single week or a small span of time. So it definitely prepped me for kind of having 3 or 4 different things going on at once and trying to balance marketing them all equally, put the same amount of work into everything as the next. So I think as far as hurting me, it basically just boiled down to I played in I want to say I got caught in a genre, but I played in a scene for years that and the music I listened to was very much based off of that scene at that point in my life. And a lot of what I was into and the new bands that I was finding were bands that were coming out in that scene and that particular type of music. So what actually happened when I went into 1904 was I was completely, whereas when I was 16, I was very in touch with what was going on in the metal hardcore community. I knew which local bands were doing good there. I knew which bands were doing good in the indie stuff, the pop rock. I knew which bands were doing good in the super emo indie where they were like not even facing the crowd and they're playing to their backs turned to everybody. Like I knew which bands did well in Jacksonville for those types of shows. When it came time to go into 1904 and actually take on the booking and promotions role, I didn't know a lot of bands that were involved in indie music. Like I know that there's kids and younger generation that listen to a lot of indie style stuff right now, and I know there's bands in town that play that style of music, but I didn't really know who they were or how well they did. And as far as the promotion sides of things, it really boiled down to, it helped me in the sense of I could promote different events. It also helped me in the sense of I was able to just have that shameless self-promotion. Towards the end of S.P.O.R.E, my personal account, I realized that our S.P.O.R.E page wasn't reaching anyone before we went on hiatus. Things we posted weren't getting there. So I had basically turned my personal profile into a mirror of everything that got posted on that S.P.O.R.E page.
Yep.
And it reached twice as many people. So when I went into 1904, I did the same thing. And I really sat down and kind of thought about how I could strategically schedule and plan different posts to where I was interacting with, we're all creatures of habit. We wake up at a different time to get ready for work or to start our day. And, I may go to scrolling after 20 minutes of being awake. You may go to scrolling at an hour after being awake or an hour after you got to work. So maybe at 8:15 I'm scrolling. Maybe at 10 you're scrolling. And then maybe Billy doesn't scroll until he gets home from work at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to hit the most audience, then I've got to take those posts and I've got to strategically plan them at different times of the day to kind of cater to whatever creature of habit you or that fan may be, whether they're on in the morning, the afternoon, the day. It was a lot of just shuffling things around. It also taught me to use a scheduling program. That was something that was big when I did a lot of social media for S.P.O.R.E. I downloaded Hootsuite, and I would use social media scheduling to schedule out a week or two worth of posts ahead of time to where I didn't really have to do anything the rest of the days. They just kind of dropped on their own,
Right.
and then I could come back and interact with the posts because let's be real, if you're constantly updating all of these social media platforms, you have almost no time to do anything else.
Yeah, tell me about
it's a somewhat of an exhausting job if you're trying to keep TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and it's cool that you can share cross-platforms on certain things now. That's awesome, but it doesn't take all the work aspect out of it.
And you also kind of have to tailor your posts to each site, so it's like the automatic sharing from different sites is like it's a useful kind of tool, but it's not always practical because how you word something on Instagram might not be the same way that you need to word it on Facebook or on other platforms in order to get the interaction.
Absolutely,
because they're different demographics.
Yeah.
So so I don't even use the sharing tools anymore. I just do separate posts, and it's literally the most exhausting thing.
Yeah.
It's just so annoying.
Yeah. I get it, man.
It's tedious.
Yeah, it's just very tedious.
It is. Yeah, and it takes a certain type of person to want to enjoy sitting down and doing that. But then, like I said, in this day and age when, if you remove yourself too far from the project, it gets to that point where you start to feel like things aren't being done the way you want them to be done, know? So as much of an exhausting thing as it is, it's also, let's be realistic, there's a lot of work that goes into one YouTube video, but you only need one to hit 1 million views, right?
Exactly.
You only need one to pop off. You can put up videos for 3 years and nothing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you put up one and you hit 1 million subscribers a year later and you're sitting back going, man, all that work for those 3 years of video, that wasn't nothing, man, because look what this that one thing, that's all you need in this day and age is the one thing.
Same logic that it was, though, 30 years ago. So you just need that one hit.
Yeah,
you just need that one hit.
100%.
It's the same logic now. It's just it just applies to social media,
Don't ever stop is the moral of the story. That's my moral for this whole bottom of the bill thing is do not give up. As soon as you give up, you lose.
100%.
So just keep it up.
So
Until
mistakes.
you're 90
I like that.
and in the grave.
So mistakes that you might have made with bands as a promoter, or things that you did early on, even within your own bands, that you had to learn the hard way.
I would think the biggest thing that I learned, and Jacksonville taught it to me very quickly, when I transitioned from being just a kid in high school bands to a kid who wanted to play in original music bands. Oversaturation is a real thing, and I think that is a huge mistake that really every new project kind of makes to some degree. You come out and you have this new music and you want to play shows, and Jacksonville, as big a town as it is a very small town, as we discussed, and the pull of people who listen to certain genres, not only listen to the genres, but actually spend money on a weekly basis to go out and support that music in a live setting, is rather small. So you've got, 100, 200, 300 people that live in town that are really like jam music, you know what I'm saying? And pulling all of those, and just say that's the number, that's the imaginary number, trying to pull all of them out to every single show is realistically not going to happen. Now, also trying to pull out 50 to every show, no matter how hard you try, isn't always going to happen. So at some point, you have to realize that, playing this many shows and making yourself so available is really honestly not a good thing. And I think that was a mistake that I made with almost, like I said, every band I've ever been in, besides maybe Adversaries, my newer project. And that's just because we didn't really get the chance to play a whole lot of gigs before everything got shut down, you know?
I was looking forward to seeing you all.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I probably would have made huge mistakes with that, too, and booked all sorts of shows had somebody let me.
Yeah.
But that's just because I want to play music. But, I would think that's a big learning curve for anybody involved in the industry, and we talked about it where if we would have moved to St. Pete, the same thing kind of would have happened. You get to that point where you play out too much and people just can't support you all the time. They can't always be there and always spend money. And then the crowds start to dwindle and you get that, that feeling that, that it's every once in a while is far better than playing all the time, and it just seems to work out better. So that was definitely a mistake that I made. That I think a lot of bands make.
Everybody
it's
makes
so
it.
easy
And no matter
to
how many
make.
times people tell you to do that, you're just like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then you book, like you say, I'm going to play 6 times this month.
It comes back to wanting to share your art.
You've got to go.
Now, if you're in a cover band,
that's different. Play
different
as
story.
much
And
as you
y'all
fucking
know,
can.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Y'all have been down that road.
Express.
Y'all are musicians that have been involved in it.
Yeah.
I did the cover thing with the Hounds for a good portion of time, and you could play this bar and play the bar next door the next night, and the bar next door the next night, and the bar next door the next night. Doesn't matter, okay? As long as the bar's got its own built-in following, and as long as people are there every single night, it don't matter, dude. Now, you got the bars that don't do super well, and you
they
play
get all
them
shitty about it.
you play them one time, and they get.
It's like, oh, where's your crowd? It's like, bro, you booked a fucking cover band. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
what's your room cost? How much are we selling tickets for? Let's be real.
Funny.
You know what I mean?
It's very interesting, man.
The Sea Chasers, that was, bringing it back to the beginning. It's Blue
Old
Rock.
Sea Chasers, I play there now, and they're great.
Oh, yeah,
Old
yeah. But it was just so funny. It's like people were coming to this, no offense to Blue Rock, I guess, but this crappy little place, and then we play at the Old Sea Chasers, I guess now, and then
nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
And they got
100%.
and they got really upset. They got really there's just so before we even started playing, the bartenders was like, "So where's your crowd?"
Oh yeah,
Where's your
it's like,
crowd?
excuse me. If you first off, you should just have an entertainment budget if you're having live music.
Yes.
Like any other expense that you might build into your budget, you should just have that. And if you don't, and you're expecting us to make up for it, you are in the wrong industry.
Yeah,
because your atmosphere, your food, and your service should just do that trick. And we should be able to keep your crowd and entertain them. We are not here to bring your crowd for you.
Yes.
Is that why we
Tell
got
me
fired
what your
from
room.
Lynch's?
we got fired.
Tell me what your room costs. Tell me what we're selling tickets for. and we'll go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It's a weird element, man, and I get it. Having worked in the venue, I can sympathize for, in a live, original live music venue, a ticketed room.
Yeah.
Bartenders and industry people, especially a booking agent, like, we make our money based off of how many people show up to the party that night.
Yeah.
It's very dependent upon how many people show up.
But your side of it makes sense, though.
Now, if you're in a restaurant or a bar situation and you just have music every Friday and Saturday night, you should be able to afford that, whether I bring a single person through the door or not.
Yeah.
That is your thing. You decided to have music on Friday and Saturday nights. I'm just the guy you called to show up and play it.
Yeah. Oh, so you're pissed that we didn't bring anybody? Talk to your chef or look in the mirror. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's funny, the Hounds played the Sea Chasers when it first transferred over.
Ooh,
and we had a similar situation. But here's what's funny is we had nobody that actually came out that knew us, okay?
Yeah.
But we played like old rock, classic rock, country, all sorts of weird stuff. It was different. It was no other cover band that I knew of was playing as weird and diverse of a set list as we were, because it was a lot of old Americana, classic rock, and country.
Yeah.
And so when we played in there, nobody showed up for us. But all of a sudden, man, I don't know if it was people just heard it outside or what was going on, but old people just started pouring in that place like it was going out of style, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then they all got in the swanky chairs, and they all ordered wine and cheese trays or whatever the hell you eat at Sea Chasers, and they sat down and they hung out and they just kept drinking. And what was funny is we got booked again. I'm at the bar getting a beer on set break, and I'll never forget it. The bartender's looking at me going, "Yo, man, so your people finally showed up?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude." And I turned around and was like, "What's up, people?" You know what I'm saying? And some table that was right there was like, "Woo!" And then everybody else kind of wooed behind me, and I was like, that couldn't have worked out any more perfect right there. I was like, yeah, I know every single one of these dudes. That's my grandma. That's my grandpa. That's my brother. That's his best friend over there. But they loved it, and they booked us to come back. Now, the second time we played, not the same thing.
Yeah.
We didn't bring the crowd that they were looking for us to bring, and unfortunately, this pouring of old people didn't show up. So it was kind of like the end of the night kind of rolled around, and it looked pretty grim, and it's, hey, if you want to keep playing here, we're expecting, 30, 40 people in the room. And at that point in time, I was already working at 1904 a little bit towards the end of the Hounds project, and I just kind of looked at him and was like, listen, man, I work in a ticketed room every night, and we're not expecting the band to bring 30, 40 people. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you want me to say, but if people are paying $18.50 for a grilled mahi sandwich,
it's not even
then
that
you
good.
should be able to afford to pay me $100 a man to come in here and play for a few hours.
At
and if
least,
you can't, then feel free to not book us anymore.
Or just music in general. Fuck
that's
you.
the minimum. Yeah. And like I said, man, you're always going to have places that, especially in those industries, man, people are trying to cut costs. I've been in a sales industry where
they don't have a luxury service in. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you very much. But sometimes I try to go back to, I'm sure there's a manager who's really just trying to manage a restaurant, and he's got some dickhead boss who's like, yo, every Friday and Saturday night I'm paying $350, $400 for a band to come in here, and still nobody's in here in the bar drinking.
It's
and
the pecking order for sure.
Cool.
That's exactly what it is, but it's just you're grossly misinformed.
Yeah, 100%. But at the same time, those people, they end up just being dicks to people like us, which in the end, we see how that works. I mean, the bars that have run out all the bands in town that were worth a shit are the bars that don't seem to do so well anymore and kind of just go under. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's only so many times you can have blah, blah, blah cover band play that nobody's heard of or is into, or bring in cover bands from Georgia or wherever else because nobody in Jax wants to play your establishment.
Yeah.
Dude, I got told at an open mic night on the north side one time that if we wanted to play the open mic to work on getting a gig at this venue, and I'm not going to say what the venue is because I just don't want to say it.
It's probably Dick's
But-
I already,
Wings.
yeah, I know it's I know it's Dick's Wings. I already know it's Dick's Wings.
Dude,
I'll give a fuck.
I had this guy tell me that unless I brought 40 people out to the open mic,
Yeah.
that we weren't even going to get a chance to get up there and play a few tunes,
Yeah.
which would then get us a gig at the restaurant.
I mean, you want to.
And it was one of those things where I was like, yo, bro, like, we decided we were coming here 16 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we were sitting at the house, and we were like, we ain't got shit else to do. Want to go to Dick's Wings? Sure, sounds great.
Fucking knew
You
it.
know what I'm saying? We went to Dick's Wings. We just came up in here and realized that, oh, y'all were slack-a-lacking up here on this damn stage, and I wanted to show you a thing or two.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was, dude, at that point, if you're going to be an asshole, I would have no issue being an asshole back. So, it was just one of those things where I'm like, dude, we just realized this is pretty lackluster. I was like, the 4 guys that were playing up there, there 30, 40 people here in the restaurant? These 10 guys over there drinking at the bar? And that one chick that's dancing? She's his wife, right?
Yeah.
Like, get out of
So-
here. Don't give me an attitude
We used
about it.
to
I'll
have a restaurant owner, bar manager, whatever, that would be like, have you ever seen Guns N' Roses before? Man, they play for 3.5 hours straight. Why do you all take breaks?
Oh yeah, that was an A1A. Yeah, bro.
And I'm like,
bro.
okay.
Bro.
You want to pay us fucking
It's like-
$20 million to play your show? All right, we'll do that.
Bro, it's like I'll tell you what, bro.
Oh,
I'll tell you
man.
what, bro. How about your open mic brings out 50 people and I fucking might play it? How about that, bro? Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious?
But there's places like that, man. And realistically, like I said, those places are going to get weeded out by all the serious musicians in town. They're all going to go there. They're going to play there one time. Then they're going to be like, no, this ain't happening ever again. And they won't go back there. But it's restaurants and bars, man. I mean, they've got to realize that you got to have a built-in fan base before you start trying to throw events.
It's a luxury
You know?
service, bro. I'm not buying a fucking Jaguar if I can't afford one. I'm not expecting the Jaguar to pay for my lifestyle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
you want a luxury service, you buy the luxury service when you have the budget to do it. Just put it into your budget and don't expect them to pay for it. It's, you know what I mean? It's just like it's as simple as that. I don't know the restaurant industry or the bar industry like that, so I can't tell you how to run your business, but I do know that music is a luxury service.
Yeah.
And that you have to build it into your budget, otherwise it doesn't
And if you
work.
do bring people out, you get more money. I think this should be the end of it.
Sure.
too.
Yeah, well,
That's
yeah,
fine.
you
If you're-
would think that,
Yeah.
right?
It's what
Because
should happen.
because at times I have, man, I always one thing that I can rest super well about
least pay your
is that
tab.
any deal that I was able to work out when I worked as a booking agent for the 3 years, man, I feel like I worked out pretty killer deals. There were a lot of nights where nobody really made any money, okay, me included.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, any night where a show did really well, bands would walk out with amounts of money that they were just totally blown away by. And it was one of those things where they're sitting here like, really? You're going to pay me all that? And I'm sitting here going, well, yeah, I mean, the show did really good. Like, that was the whole deal, right? It was like, we got to pay for the room. I got to pay for the staff and everybody who works here. And then from there, y'all are going to make most of the money. Like, most of the money goes to the bands. Well, dude, it was a foreign concept. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those things where people were looking at me going, "What do you mean?" Like, I figured we'd make a couple $100, and it's like, no, bro, I got like $1,200 for you. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, I remember handing these kids in this band, Flip Turn, man,
Oh,
incredible
yeah.
band,
From
dude.
Fernandina.
And I booked them their first show at 1904, and then booked them over and over and over again all the way till they were selling out that room. And I did multiple sold out shows with them in that room, but. Dude, I can't even tell you the look on these kids' faces the first time I brought them back to pay them out on a sold-out show. You know what I'm saying? And they're literally, I'm like, all right, so here's how the breakdown works, and here's how the numbers go, and in the end, this is going to be your 75% of the sold-out show. I've already taken care of all the supporting bands. Everything's good to go. And they're sitting there like, is that supposed to have a 2 and a comma?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, you made a lot of money tonight. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, good job. Good on you for doing something awesome and killing it. And realistically, it should work that way. But we've all played the shows, and me included, where, I opened for a giant band at Freebird, the Almost, Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath band in early 2000s at Freebird. I sold $120 tickets. And we walked out at the end of the night with like $100. You know what I'm saying? Now, God bless Tim Hall, because great dude. And he definitely brought it back to me later in life by booking me on so many gigs that I would have never gotten without him. But at the same time, there's got to be an understanding of what support costs. And when you're playing these bigger gigs, you know, when we opened for Blues Traveler, S.P.O.R.E opened for Blues Traveler, I wasn't expecting to get paid very much. You know what I'm saying? It was more to get to open for Blues Traveler.
Right. Because you're not bringing people out to that show, really.
No, but everybody's coming to see Blues Traveler already. Like, we're just the opening, we're the appetizer for Blues Traveler, okay? We're the appetizer for John getting up here all hopped out on cocaine and blowing in the harmonica for an hour. Okay? Let's be realistic, all right? So, that's what it is. But you have to be aware of that, and you know, you got to be able to negotiate those things. It all kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, negotiating those kind of situations.
How many times I've just said yes to a show without a counter offer, man? Just because I'm just like, well, if I counter, they're just gonna fucking
say no.
They're just gonna say no, and it's like that's just not true. Like they'll let you know that they're gonna say no before they say no most of the time too.
Oh, yeah,
those, but hey, man, listen, we can't do that. So if you want the show, this is what it is. It's like they're not just gonna be like, no, sorry, unless they offer you something like, hey, we can give you, 10% of the sales after expenses, blah blah.
And you
want to
know,
I want $1,000, and they'd be like, no.
And you know what, man? I can actually remember back to booking a gig with you where I made y'all an offer, and you did. You counter-offered me on the percentage on the back end.
I did.
And I was like, cool, let's do it. I was like, sure, this is what I can give you, man. Like, I don't know if we were able to get quite to the number that you were at, but I think we got closer to where we were at.
Yeah.
If we didn't get there, like
I remember that show exactly. That was the first time I'd really tried that, because I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw it out there and see what happens. Like, I want to play the show, but at the same time, it's like, we're because it wasn't like a big band coming through.
Nope.
They were an out of town act. And I was like, you know what? I know that we're gonna be like the main band on the bill, so let me throw back a number and just see what happens.
Wait, we were at the top of the bill?
No, that's good though.
Thank you.
Bottom of the bill. Hey.
But actually, I did want to, before we wrap it up. God damn it! I still have so much I want to ask.
I know, I did too.
But,
I didn't have to work, but unfortunately I got to. So.
I just want to kind of ask you. There's something I really do want to ask you. Is if you have like a bigger headliner on a bill, and you have supporting acts, what just on average, what does a typical show structure look like for that? So like as far as like how the payment works and percentages and tickets.
So to give a completely transparent idea into the industry, because obviously I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Typically with like a big band, let's say we're getting let's say Dumpsta Funk. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna peg them out. All right, a band that costs thousands of dollars a night, you know what I'm saying? On an off night, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, you could get them for maybe, and this is me rough quoting off of my experience with them. Don't take it as a word, but anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000, depending upon an off night or like a Saturday night banging night.
Sure.
Okay. Usually you'll get the manager offer, hey, this is what the guarantee is going to cost, and then from there on, a lot of these big shows, budgets for supporting acts are already kind of worked out in the situation from the very beginning. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, we need $5,000 for Saturday night, and we'll give you, and let's spend $500 on support. Sometimes the touring act already has a supporting act with them, which at that point, being a local venue, you're like, oh, hey, your tour support probably doesn't have any draw in Jacksonville. I need to get a local act on here that's going to actually hopefully bring some people to see this show. Dumpsta Funk is great, but I also need another band on here to help me get some people in the room, guarantee that this show is going to be a hit. At that point, like I said, the budget's already structured in for support. So, if they say, hey, we need $350 for the band that's touring with Dumpsta Funk, well, then we're sitting back going, okay, so we got $150 that we can pay to a local band to come and open this thing up, which is realistically not nothing, right? I mean, it's nothing. So, but at the same time, a lot of those budgets get worked in, and that's where, in situations where I tried to offer percentages on back ends, like things like that, where it's like, hey, I can't offer you really much up front, but like if the show does well, I can in fact make sure you make some money here. And a lot of times it's a very structured thing. They send over an offer, and you're more than welcome to send back a counter offer, as we were just discussing, to these larger acts. But obviously, when you're a venue that's trying to get a big band in there, you're trying to get something that you think's gonna make the bar quite a bit of money in a night, you're weary to push back too hard, especially with a band of that caliber. So it's like, oh well, can we get $600 for support? But realistically, the support's not coming out of the manager's budget. The support's coming out of the venue's budget. So now it's like, okay, I got to pay Dumpster Funk $5K, but I also have to budget $500 for support on this show. So now instead of the show costing me $5,500 or $5,000 plus room cost, now it costs me $5,500 plus room cost. I got to find a local band that's okay for playing for $150 with this band, for a 30, 45 minute set. And then I got to hope that everything goes okay in the end. And at the end of the night, we make $6,500 back to pay all the staff, to pay their guarantee, to pay all the sport guarantee. And then at that point, the promoter's starting to make some money, or the agent's starting to make some money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's a weird situation, man. And a lot of times with local events, especially events with bands like y'all that have a decent draw in Jacksonville and can be paired with out of town bands to make a good show. You got to go in offering, hey, my deals were a lot of times, let's cover the room expenses, and then y'all take 70-80% of everything after that, and I'll work off 20-30%. You
Plus
know
the
what
sales
I'm saying?
tax, which people always forget about, which is something I always forget about.
Sales tax
too.
is a huge thing in
Yeah.
there, and it's one of those things where a lot of the smaller venues, don't charge you sales tax, because let's be realistic, a lot of these smaller bars are running on like cash operations where not much is going on. But then when you step into a venue like 1904 or even Jackrabbits or something like that, at the end of the night, the breakdown comes around. These are businesses that realistically do run a lot of cash sales. They might be audited. They stand a very good chance of getting audited. You got to pay sales tax. Like that's a real thing. Like
of course.
you can't run away from that,
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you what, I've been late on my sales tax for my screen print business before. They will charge you hard for that. Don't forget to pay your sales tax, all right? Because let me tell you, if you're a day late, it's like $50, all right? And if you're a month late, oh my God, I was almost there, and was like, don't do that to me, please, no. Like, I got the money right here.
IRS will
Here's
get
all
you,
the
bud.
papers. Like, psh, I wasn't trying to screw on y'all. I just got busy, get out of here.
Man, Chris, I wish we could talk all night. I swear to God, this has been a really informative conversation. But we got to wrap it up, man. I gotta go to work. I don't know what to tell you.
I hear you,
All
man.
right.
I hear you.
So
All right.
let's do rapid fire unpopular opinions. You got one still?
Yeah.
I do. I have
We'll
an
say-
unpopular opinion.
We'll save yours for last.
Oh man. All
So mine is I don't like the touch screens on the phones for texting. That shit fucking sucks.
So you'd rather have a BlackBerry
Cordy
from
keypad.
2004?
Cordy keypad, like a sidekick.
100%, bro. At least I could, or at least even with the Nokias, where I could fucking hit it 3 times and knew exactly which letter I was on.
I'm gonna outlive you for so long.
I'm just saying.
I'm with you, bro. I'm not a touchscreen.
Talk about being
person.
resistant to technology.
Yeah, that's
I
what
hate
I'm
it.
trying to
I
say.
hate it. I hate it.
Did you know that your nose is actually like the exact same I guess texture or whatever for your phone? I'm holding 2 things right now, and I can just do this.
Is that your unpopular opinion?
No, it's not. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
That's how. But you
Random tidbit.
You can't do that with a BlackBerry. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. My first unpopular opinion is I don't understand why the Bernie meme is so funny.
I feel you.
I just don't get why it's so funny.
It's not funny at all.
It's not funny to me. It's just like I get why it's so popular. It's like, oh, he's like sitting there, but I just don't know why it's so funny.
Yeah, I don't think I saw
You're
one.
on my side.
Yeah, I saw one where it was like the scene with Sharon Stone from Basic Instinct.
Oh yeah,
and it was her, and it was just Bernie. That was the only funny one that I saw.
The one that I really enjoyed was he's like the MMA fighter, and he's got the dude's arm pulled up in his hands. And
he's got Conor McGregor.
That was like the
leg
one
lock.
that I was really like, oh, okay, this
is funny now.
tickles me.
Well, whatever.
But most of them are really dumb. I will
most
say.
of them are pretty
okay,
horrible.
maybe it's not that unpopular, but right now it seems to be the thing.
Okay, so
Number 2.
my second one is I'm not really a big fan of drinking beer anymore.
Oh,
Kind of over beer.
okay.
Really?
All right, fair enough.
Liquor is just easier for me to drink. Beer gets you
Yep.
bloated
Yep.
and it makes you burp a lot.
Yep.
And And liquor's just like I can just kind of sip it and just chill and.
I only have hangovers when I drink beer.
Exactly.
I only have
Exactly.
hangovers when I drink
I've
beer.
had a hangover for about 2 years straight. So
Yes.
I don't
There was
think
one
beer
night-
has anything to do with it.
There was one night where Billy and I stayed up till like 6 a.m. just smashing records in the middle of the street. Got
Oh,
hammered.
breaking records is what I call
yeah.
it.
Breaking records.
Breaking records, you
Just-
guys. You go outside and you fucking get a $5 record, or not $5, dollar record from the fucking flea market. You go outside and break it in
And
the
we were
street.
just
breaking records.
we were singing Beatles tunes at the top of our lungs, smashing records in the road
Yeah, you have a
till
fun time when
6
you drink with
a.m.
me.
And it was just liquor, and I was aggressively hungover the next day.
Yeah.
But I will. That was.
How
you
was
know,
I doing?
You were fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the Irish for you. I don't know what to tell you.
I woke up and didn't even know where I was, and you were just like, "Oh, it's just another day."
Yeah.
Well, Sunday. It was
No problem. Sunday.
Sundays are rough.
Sunday.
All right, number 2. I want it to stay winter forever, and even this perfect weather right now is annoying to me.
Okay.
It's too hot outside for
I
me.
prefer cold weather.
You do?
I do.
How do you live in Florida? You
I do.
grew up in Florida and everything?
Dude,
gets
I,
cold in
I-
Jacks,
I
bro.
would totally rather be cold all the time.
Me too.
All the time.
It gets cold in Jax, so
Little
it does.
husky. Remember when
Jassy-
they used to have husky boys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a husky boy
They
all
don't-
day.
They don't have husky boy jeans
I
anymore.
don't even know what that is.
Exactly, because you're so thin and beautiful.
Okay. So
Yes.
my
Yes.
That used to be a
Yes,
thing.
yes.
You're like, I'm a husky 16.
All right. So my last unpopular opinion is I'm totally okay with nepotism and cronyism.
What's the last word you said? Cronyism?
Cronyism.
I never heard of that.
It's where you hire your friends, and nepotism is where you hire your family.
Family?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think that's awful.
Yeah.
Look at the last fucking.
Look at Andrew Schultz. Are you familiar with Andrew Schultz?
No.
He's a comedian that's basically just changed the game of comedy.
Okay.
And who I've been taking notes from for years now because comedy and music basically work in the same exact way.
Yeah.
So I've been taking notes for him he's a marketing genius, but also a really funny comedian. And he basically just like he started this new Netflix thing that he's been doing. It's like a 15-minute rant, and
not
it's really
very
funny. He doesn't like it, but it's really funny.
Okay. Okay.
And he basically just brought on his like the people that he trusted, that he knew from different aspects of life or whatever. And one dude didn't even know how to use Adobe Premiere, and then made their trailer and everything in like 2 days, and it looks dope as fuck. And then
well, hey.
and on top, and then like all his joke writers are just like people that they've kind of been with him from the beginning.
Okay.
Weren't necessarily the most qualified people, but people that have been with him from the get-go. The loyalty.
Yeah.
And he was just like, you know what? I could bring on people that I don't know that are probably more qualified, but I'm going to build my team. I'm going to build my loyal people, and this is what's going to happen. And he did, and it's great, and he's killing it. And why not just hire your people regardless of what?
Well,
If they're willing to put in the work,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
nepotism's okay in like a family business, but when it comes to the government and the fucking chairs in the board, like that's not very good. Like,
Well, I'm not.
Donald Trump
I'm just.
had all of his family.
I'm not
like,
talking
just
about.
chilling.
I'm not talking about that.
That's
I'm
not good.
just saying. I'm just saying that it's not
Agreed.
it's not a bad principle
It's not
on,
popular
on
opinion,
its
that's the whole
own.
point.
It can be used in bad ways, But I'm just saying that like if somebody's like, well, you might be more qualified, but I'm gonna hire my cousin on this because whatever, and your cousins are hard worker, they'll learn how to do the job correctly.
Yeah.
Why
It's all
not?
about who
Yeah.
you know. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's like every gig that we've gotten, or most gigs that we've gotten, or most situations that we've been in, where that have been in favor of
Because
us.
I knew Paul.
No, get the fuck out of here. It's based, but it is
Made
because
him laugh.
it is because that we've developed relationships with people over time.
Yeah.
And even though it's like, well, maybe this person might be better, but I've like been developing this relationship with you.
Yeah.
Let me give you the opportunity
We
instead.
get it. We
100%.
understand what
Yeah.
nepotism is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
All right,
No,
I say
I
this
think that's
one.
good.
I saved this one for last because I thought it'd be really funny to say. Lucky Costello is better than S.P.O.R.E. That was the best. Ever.
Dude,
That
I
stupid
really
fucking
liked Lucky
rivalry.
Costello a lot. So I mean, I don't. I liked Lucky Costello a lot. I liked Lucky. I didn't say I agreed, but I liked Lucky Costello a lot.
I don't know who started that whole fucking thing, but it was so fucking funny because
Yeah, it
we
was-
both played into it, and then we meet behind stage, and we're like, "This shit's fucking hilarious."
Yeah, it was interesting, man. I heard it from everyone else.
Everyone else, right?
Yeah,
That's what I
everyone
said.
else kind of seemed to think that there was like this S.P.O.R.E. Lucky Costello beef.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, no, I genuinely don't know any of those guys really at all. Like, I honestly just met those dudes like a few months ago at some random CD bar over there. Like, this dude lives in the back of. Like, I don't really know much about this at all. But yeah, it's actually pretty
But
funny.
I tell you a story. I went down to Orlando to play a show, and I wasn't even in Lucky Costello.
No, you were. It
anymore.
was with
I was
us.
with Side Hustle, and I had this person come up to me, and we were talking. It's like, "Oh, you're from Lucky," and I'm like, "Yeah." And then he just goes, "This is fucking wook." Just goes up to me and just like, "S.P.O.R.E.'s better." Just right to my face.
No way.
And I'm like, how did it get down this
Sounds like
far?
something a Wook would say.
Yeah.
Sounds like something a Wook would say.
I just thought it was
yeah.
funny.
No,
that's
I-
for Donnie to fucking to hear. And
Yeah, Donnie will really enjoy that,
yeah,
I'm
that's
sure.
a funny one. But I just, there was never any animosity between
No,
us.
absolutely
it was just
not.
so fucking funny. To
Yeah.
fucking say that
It
shit.
was one of those things
And
where
we never said it. It was always the
yeah,
fans.
it always. I feel like it was silently a lot of our individual fans or friends that were like closer to either y'all or closer to us that kind of just had like this like, oh yeah, well I'm S.P.O.R.E. Or like, oh yeah, Lucky Costello, you know. And it was interesting, man, because it seemed to get that vibe just about everywhere from everybody. But at the same time, I'm like, you know that we're like don't have any issues, right? Like, I genuinely don't know how many conversations I've had with any of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't tell you if I like the guy or not right now. You know, I may love these dudes. Like, I just don't know. But it's interesting, man.
And it was like you said, it was really funny. It's just people would just come up to you and just let you know.
Yeah, well, you know, I will say that I believe that it probably pushed both of our bands to kind of do more than we were doing because if anything, it was a proper, I don't want to say rivalry, but a proper rivalry. You know, it was like, hey, we kind of do the same thing and we're kind of pulling from the same fan base. We're from the same town.
It's great
and
marketing.
We're trying
too.
to come up at the same time. Like, yeah, I mean,
Puts butts into seats, man.
it was great, man. Yeah,
Tupac and Biggie, bro. That's all I gotta say.
Represent.
Tupac and Biggie.
But
Great
okay,
marketing.
all right. You got your last one?
Yeah,
Is it Dave Matthews? Is it Dave Matthews?
No, it's definitely not Dave Matthews. But I feel like y'all could not have set me up much better with your record-breaking story. I do not like the Beatles.
Wow, that's his favorite band, which is hilarious because that's the most white bread, like plain fucking band to love. But
So, and here's the
kinda
thing.
get it.
Here's the thing. Huge amount of respect for them as musicians and what they did for music culture and rock and everything else. Huge amount of respect. Incredible, great songwriters even. But I cannot count. There's never been a time that I've been driving in my vehicle and been like, let me put on some Beatles.
I'm gonna put the Beatles on.
ever. And it is, I don't tell many people because I usually get the reaction that's just like,
Do you know what they are?
you're
They're
a
kind of-
musician and you don't like the Beatles, and I'm like, no, man, it just doesn't resonate with me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say. Like, and even what was the movie that came out where they redid all the Beatles songs?
Across the Universe.
Across the
Yeah,
Universe.
you know what? And I actually enjoyed a lot of the songs much more on that soundtrack than I had
Those
ever
are great
enjoyed
renditions.
actual Beatles songs. But like I said, huge amount of respect for what they did for music and what the respect for what they brought to the culture. But at the same time, just not something that ever really ticked me, you know. And it's a very unpopular opinion.
It is a little unpopular. I was gonna say they're kind of like the William Shakespeare of music right now.
You know,
Where it's like you respect it a lot, but then like you're not gonna fucking sit down and read William Shakespeare.
I listen to the
Yeah,
Beatles
there you go.
regularly.
But he-
dude. And listen, that's great. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that people do.
They kind of played
You
out.
know what
They
I'm
kind of
saying?
played out the Beatles.
But
you know?
like I said, I would agree with you, Bill. I would agree with you, Billy. All right, they're a little played out. Let's be real here. But yeah,
Abbey Road and Sgt. Pepper's will never ever be played out. Those are some of the best records of all time.
Yeah, I
But,
got a hole in my pocket. That's a great song. Anyways, keep going.
You have
Look, I made him laugh.
Bill. This guy's got no backbone.
Yeah,
When it's just him
man.
and I hanging out. It's like, oh, I fucking love the Beatles, bro. As soon as somebody else is like, I don't like the Beatles, like, I don't get it either. It's like, bro, you're fucking.
I
you're
do
just-
like the
You're like one of those
Beatles.
like weasel
I
kids.
was. I'm playing to the crowd. I guess I'm on a camera, so I kind of have to become an actor.
You don't
Yeah,
have to do
yeah.
anything.
I'm acting.
Yeah, you're acting. Anyways, well, thanks for coming on the show, man. We
Yeah.
Oh,
appreciate
yo,
it.
man.
It
Thank
was a lot
y'all
of
for
fun.
having me.
There's so many more questions that I have and stuff, so maybe we'll probably get you on again at
Yeah, I
some
was
point.
about to say,
Oh
we're gonna have
yeah,
part
let's
two.
definitely do it. Let's try to get y'all on maybe our podcast at some point.
I'd
That'd
love
be
to
cool
do that,
too.
man.
Podcast.
So the Together We Print podcast, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, really cool screen printing shop in Jacksonville, Florida called Grind Time Clothing Concepts, and it's just kind of a weekly update on what we got going on in the shop. So
All right.
check it out wherever you're at, and hopefully we can get y'all on at some point to talk like some band merch.
Let's do that.
Hell
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Something like that would be
Nobody
We
cool.
wants us
definitely-
on our podcast.
Dude,
We-
let's do it.
We definitely, at you with the new album coming out, we need a whole line of shit. So
Dude, let's do
let's
it.
talk.
Make it happen.
Hell yeah. All right, bro. Thanks for being
Anyways,
on.
Yeah,
See
man.
you guys
Comic
next time.
Chris. Adios, muchachos.
Peace.